Imagine this. You're sitting across from a woman, trying to figure out if she's the right one. You ask about her past, her exes, her childhood. She smiles, tells you what sounds like an honest story, but deep down, you feel it. Something's missing. Because she controls the story. She gives you the highlight reel, not the raw footage, and most men fall for it. That's why they get blindsided, used, or left holding the emotional bill. But here's the secret. You don't need to ask. You just need to know where to look. Because her past is written all over her, in her tone, her patterns, her triggers. Stay with me, because I'm about to give you 8 signs that expose her past, without you ever having to ask. So let's start with the very first one. Number 1, her relationship with attention. I want you to watch how she handles the spotlight, online and in the room. Not the outfit or the selfies, the engine underneath. There's a difference between a woman who enjoys attention and a woman who needs it to feel whole. One is playful. The other is a leak in the foundation that never stops dripping. You'll hear it in casual lines. My DMs are wild. Guys wouldn't leave me alone at the gym. Everyone was staring. If she brings male attention into the conversation unprompted and often, the story might not be about the men. It might be about the need behind the men. Here's the psychology in plain English. Validation feels like relief. If she was ignored in childhood or minimized in a past relationship, attention can become emotional morphine. And like any drug, the dose must increase. Your compliments hit hard at first, then they wear off. She'll unconsciously reach for a fresher source. New eyes, new likes, new, you're gorgeous. That's not villainy, it's conditioning. But if you build with someone who's conditioned to chase the next high, you'll be negotiating with a moving target. Let me make it real. David, 46, owns a small logistics company. Great shape, calm presence, generous. His girlfriend didn't just enjoy compliments. She reported them like weather updates. New barista flirting. Trainer too friendly. Random guy won't stop looking. David thought she was being open, but every update carried the same subtext. Am I still the center? When David got busy during quarter end, her mood dipped, posts spiked, captions grew thirstier. She wasn't cheating, she was dosing. By the time he noticed, he wasn't evaluating compatibility. He was competing with the crowd. Now don't jump to conclusions from a single weekend of selfies. Preference for attention is normal. Addiction to attention shows up as patterns. Look for compulsion, rapid posting when she's stressed, social energy that skyrockets after minor conflict, disproportionate irritation if you don't react quickly to her updates. Look for narrative inflation. Everyone was staring, repeated often, with a glow that outlasts the moment. And watch the why. Is the attention celebrated for admiration or used as proof of worth? Application, surgical and simple. First, stop overfeeding the loop. Give sincere, specific appreciation, then pause. If she's secure, she breathes. If she's hooked, she hunts. Second, test gently. Reduce your response time to neutral, not punitive. Observe whether she steadies or escalates by seeking fresh validation elsewhere. Third, cross-check with off-platform behavior. Does she light up more from shared experiences or from public visibility? If connection soothes her more than attention displays, you're likely in safe territory. Warning label, context matters. A spike in posting during a promotion, reunion, or after a tough week is not a diagnosis. Treat signals as hypotheses, not verdicts. Your job is not to police her. It's to recognize whether her fuel source aligns with your peace. Validation addiction is an emotional drug. If you're not the dealer, she'll find one. If you are the dealer, you'll never clock out. Number 2, how she talks about other women. If you really want to see a woman's past without asking a single thing, stop listening only to how she talks to you. Start listening to how she talks about other women. Because here's the raw truth. Women project. They reflect their insecurities, their scars, and their unresolved rivalries not through direct confession, but through casual comments about their female friends, co-workers, or even strangers passing by. You've heard it before. A woman says, "She's fake," or "She's probably cheating on her boyfriend." At first you laugh it off as gossip, but if every woman she mentions is messy, trying too hard, or a drama queen, that's not just her being opinionated. That's a mirror. That's her emotional history leaking out. Here's why. When someone carries old wounds, they often see those wounds in others. A woman who was cheated on may constantly accuse others of being too flirty. A woman who felt left behind may tear down another woman's success because deep inside she feels she's losing the race of life. This isn't just catty talk, it's a psychological tell. You're not just hearing words, you're hearing what hurts. And men, you have to be sharp here. Don't get blinded by charm and smiles when she's with you. Pay attention to her tone when she talks about women she doesn't have to impress. Is it supportive, grounded, or is it laced with bitterness, sarcasm, judgment? Because tone tells you the truth long before the words ever do. Let me give you a picture. Imagine you're out to dinner and your date suddenly comments, "That woman across the room is desperate. Look at how she's dressed." Now, you might think she's just being playful. But a man who's emotionally literate pauses. He asks himself, why does she need to tear down a stranger she'll never meet? The answer usually isn't about the stranger, it's about her. That's her past talking, not her present. Here's the emotional punch. If every woman is a threat, you need to ask what past turned her life into a battlefield. Because no man wants to sign up for a relationship where paranoia, rivalry, and insecurity are running the show. And let me tell you, those scars don't magically vanish just because you treat her well. Now, I'm not telling you to judge her or dump her at the first sarcastic remark. I'm telling you to collect data. Test the pattern. Is it occasional or is it constant? Does she show respect for women who succeed, or does she always cut them down? Because the pattern is what reveals her emotional past and your potential future with her. Application. The next time she tells a story about a friend or coworker, don't just listen to the surface gossip. Tune in to the undertone. Supportive women are usually at peace with themselves. Bitter women are often still at war with their past and eventually with you. Number 3, her conflict style. If you really want to understand a woman's past, don't just watch her when things are going well. Watch her when things go wrong. Conflict is where the ghosts of her past show up uninvited. And I'm not talking about explosive screaming matches or dramatic breakdowns. I'm talking about the small friction points. Plans change, you forget something, she feels ignored for a moment. Her reaction in those micro moments tells you more than any love story ever will. Some women go silent. They shut down, withdraw, give you the cold shoulder. That silence isn't random, it's learned behavior. A woman who was punished or dismissed for showing emotions in the past often teaches herself that silence is safer than expression. Others go on the attack. Sharp words, blame, guilt trips. That's not her trying to win. That's her defense system. Somewhere in her past, vulnerability got her hurt, so she built armor made of aggression. Take Michael, for example. He's 55, divorced twice, a successful business owner who thought he had seen it all. But what broke his second marriage wasn't money, infidelity, or lifestyle. It was silence. His ex-wife would go stone cold every time a disagreement came up. A missed call, silent treatment, a canceled dinner, 3 days of withdrawal. At first, Michael thought it was just her way of cooling down. Years later, he realized it was her old wound replaying. The abandonment she felt as a child every time her father walked out of the house. She wasn't fighting him. She was fighting her past. But Michael was the one stuck in the crossfire. That's the core truth. Conflict isn't just about now. It's a replay of her old wars. You're not just arguing over dinner plans. You're watching how she learned to survive emotionally. And men often make the mistake of rushing in to fix it, thinking if they say the right words, she'll calm down. Wrong. Her reaction isn't about logic, it's about history. Here's your emotional punch. If every disagreement turns into either a cold war or a battlefield, you're not in a fresh relationship. You're inside her unresolved trauma loop, and that's a dangerous place to live. Now, let's be clear. Not every shutdown means deep trauma, and not every sharp word means she's broken. Context matters. What you need to do is recognize patterns. Does she always avoid conflict, or can she engage calmly sometimes? Does she escalate minor issues into major ones, or is she capable of repair? Because those differences tell you whether she's replaying the past or writing a new chapter. Practical advice: don't rush to heal her or become her therapist. That's not your job. Your job is to observe, understand, and then decide, do I want to step into this war? Some battles aren't yours to fight, and the man who ignores that truth ends up drained, resentful, and wondering how he became collateral damage in someone else's story. Number 4. Her relationship timeline. You don't need to ask her, when was your last relationship? To know her history. In fact, when you ask that question, you usually get the polished version, the safe, edited highlight reel. But a woman's timeline is always leaking out in her language. The words she chooses, the details she skips, even the way she says "we" when talking about a restaurant or a trip, those are breadcrumbs, and they're far more honest than a direct answer ever will be. Here's the trick. Listen to how she places events in time. If she casually says, "That was 2 years ago," without thinking, she's giving you her internal clock. That slip tells you when something ended, how fresh the wound might still be, and how much distance she really has from it. On the other hand, if she avoids mentioning time altogether, never gives context, or skips past whole chapters of her life like they never happened, that's not random. That's a silence loaded with meaning. And silence, when it comes to someone's past, is sometimes the loudest confession. Think about it this way. People who have healed don't need to erase history. They can talk about an ex, a divorce, or even a painful breakup without flinching because they've already done the work. But when someone dances around timelines, when they blur the before and after, it often signals that the wound is still raw. It's like looking at a book with missing pages. You don't know what's written there, but you know it mattered enough to be ripped out. Here's the emotional punch. If she can't tell you when something ended, chances are it hasn't really ended. But don't fall into the trap of assuming one skipped detail means disaster. Context, again, is everything. Maybe she doesn't want to bore you with old stories. Maybe she values privacy. That's why you don't jump to conclusions. You stack signals. Combine the skipped timeline with her tone, her body language, and the way she talks about herself now. That's when the pattern becomes undeniable. So what should you do? Simple. Stop interrogating. Pay attention to the natural flow of her stories. When she says, "After everything fell apart, I had to rebuild myself," pause on that phrase. That's not just a casual comment. That's a marker of deep recovery. She may never spell out what everything was, but her words show you the weight of it. Practical advice: be patient. When you observe instead of press, she will reveal more than she ever intended. And your role isn't to pry. It's to notice. The way she skips over 6 months. The way she changes subject when talking about a certain year. The way she pauses when the word "we" slips out. Those tiny cracks are where the truth leaks through. Remember this. Women don't reveal their past by telling you. They reveal it by avoiding it. And the man sharp enough to catch that distinction is the one who never gets blindsided by a story he didn't sign up for. Number 5. Her views on men. One of the clearest windows into a woman's past is not how she talks about you, but how she talks about men in general. Because in those comments, you're not hearing about you. You're hearing about the men who came before you. And whether you realize it or not, those ghosts will sit between you and her if you don't pay attention. I've coached countless men who missed this sign because they assumed a woman's bitterness was just harmless venting. It's not harmless. Words carry history. Take Rick, a 50-year-old doctor I once worked with. He went on a first date with a woman who seemed charming, funny, and lighthearted. But every so often, she would slip in a line like, "Men are liars," or "Guys only want one thing," followed by a quick laugh. Rick ignored it, thinking she was joking. 6 months later, when the relationship blew up in a storm of accusations and suspicion, he realized those jokes were not jokes at all. They were scars, speaking in disguise. Here's the truth. A joke that keeps repeating is rarely a joke. It's a wound wearing a smile. If she constantly paints men as cheaters, liars, or emotionally unavailable, that belief didn't come from a TED Talk. It came from her life. And while she may treat you well in the honeymoon stage, that underlying script is still running. When things get tough, that script can flip against you. Suddenly, you're guilty by association, paying for the crimes of men you've never met. The danger isn't that she dislikes her ex, that's normal. The danger is when all men are cast in the same role. That tells you her trust history is broken, and no matter what you do, she may still be waiting for you to prove her fears right. Now, don't confuse this with awareness. Some women can say, "Yes, I've been hurt before, but I know not every man is the same." That's different. That's growth. That's someone who has processed their pain. But when every story is coated with cynicism, when every reference to men drips with suspicion, you're not dealing with insight. You're dealing with residue. Practical advice: listen closely to her tone. Sarcasm with a sting, bitterness hiding behind humor, or generalizations about all men. These are red flags. And here's your responsibility. Don't argue with her. Don't defend men as a species. Simply observe and ask yourself, am I ready to carry the weight of her distrust? Or am I about to step into a battlefield that was never mine? Because remember, you're not here to repair her view of the entire male population. You're here to decide whether her history will poison your future. So the next time you hear her say, "Men are the worst," don't just laugh it off. Stop and recognize what's really happening. That's not a joke. That's memory in motion. And if you're not careful, that memory could rewrite your story too. Number 6, how she talks about her family. If you really want to understand the emotional blueprint a woman operates from, pay attention to how she talks about her family, especially her parents. You don't need to dig or interrogate. All you have to do is listen. Her tone, her choice of words, the way she dismisses or softens certain memories. Those are the fingerprints of her emotional operating system. Let me give you an example. Laura, a 42-year-old teacher, once told a man she was dating, "Yeah, my dad was around, I guess. We weren't super close, but whatever." That single word, whatever, was doing a lot of heavy lifting. On the surface, it sounded casual, but underneath, it was covering years of disappointment. That shrug was armor, not indifference. Family dynamics shape how she bonds with you far more than any ex-boyfriend ever did. If her father was emotionally distant, she may unconsciously expect men to withhold affection. If love was inconsistent, warm one day, cold the next, she may brace for unpredictability even when you're steady. And if she had to earn love at home, don't be surprised if she feels compelled to constantly prove herself in a relationship, even when you never asked her to. This is not about judgment. It's about awareness. Because what you're seeing isn't random. It's programming. Her childhood environment was her training ground for intimacy, trust, and conflict. And unless she has done the hard work of reprogramming, that old script is still running quietly in the background. Here's the punchline. Family dynamics whisper louder than love stories. A woman might tell you a glowing tale of her last relationship, but the way she flinches at the word family dinner, or the way her voice hardens when she mentions her mother, those are the tells that reveal how she really learned to love, to fight, and to forgive. Practical advice. Don't pry. Don't ask her to unpack her trauma like she's on your therapy couch. Simply notice. When you mention holidays, does she light up with nostalgia or shut down with sarcasm? When you ask about her mom, Does she offer warmth or a clipped sentence with no detail? Watch her body language. Sometimes the silence between her words is louder than anything she says. And here's your responsibility as a man. Recognize that you're not her father and you're not her therapist. Your role is to decide whether her foundation is compatible with the future you want to build, because people rarely outgrow the emotional language they were raised with. So if you want to know how she'll love you, pay attention to how she learned to love at home. That's the code most men ignore, and it's the one that costs them the most. Number 7. What makes her emotional and what doesn't? One of the most revealing windows into a woman's past is what stirs her emotions, and just as important, what leaves her cold. I'm not just talking about tears or obvious breakdowns. I'm talking about those subtle but powerful shifts, when something lands harder than expected or when she reacts with surprising detachment. For example, imagine you're watching a movie together. The plot takes a turn where a father abandons his child. She suddenly grows quiet, her body stiffens, her eyes avoid the screen. That's not just being sensitive. That's an emotional echo. It means that story touched a scar. On the other side of the spectrum, maybe she hears a song about heartbreak that would crush most people, and she skips it instantly, as if it doesn't exist. That isn't indifference. It's avoidance. Numbness learned the hard way. Here's the rule. Overreaction always has a history. People don't blow up, shut down, or detach without context. That intensity comes from something lived before. And detachment? That isn't strength, it's survival. It's what happens when someone had to harden themselves too early, when vulnerability once cost them too much. Sometimes the trigger isn't even tied to romance. Maybe she's excluded from a group outing, and the reaction is way bigger than the situation. Maybe someone raises their voice slightly, and she instantly shuts down. Those are not random quirks. They're emotional footprints, tracing back to wounds you didn't cause, but might have to live with if you stay blind. Your mistake would be to ask directly, so what makes you emotional? That's the fast track to a polished, surface-level answer. Nobody reveals their real trigger points under interrogation. You'll get the edited highlight reel, not the raw data. The truth reveals itself when she's unguarded. That's why you observe, not interrogate. Practical advice. Take mental notes. What hits her hard? What doesn't? What scenes, words, or dynamics spark unexpected silence or disproportionate reactions? These are the keys to understanding whether she has faced her past, or if she's still dragging it like invisible luggage into your present. And here's the harsh reality. If she hasn't healed, those triggers will eventually get handed to you. You'll be the one paying the bill for the pain someone else caused. That doesn't make her bad. It makes her human. But your job is to decide whether you're willing and able to live with those scars playing out in your relationship. Because the past always leaks out in the present. The only question is, will you be wise enough to see it before it blindsides you? Number 8. Observation over interrogation. The smartest men don't play detective with a flashlight and a list of questions. They don't interrogate, they observe. And that difference changes everything. When you ask a woman directly, "So what happened in your last relationship?" you're inviting her to hand you the sanitized version. The curated highlight reel. Words are masks, they are armor, and she's had years to rehearse the safe answers. But her patterns? Those don't lie. James, a 60-year-old man getting back into the dating world after a divorce, learned this the hard way. At first, he thought being upfront meant asking every personal question on the table. Were you ever cheated on? How long was your last relationship? Are you still in touch with your ex? And every time he got neat, polite, carefully wrapped answers. But none of those answers prepared him for what came next. It wasn't until he stopped interrogating and started observing that he saw the truth. One night, he canceled a date last minute because of a work emergency. Her reaction? She went silent. Not annoyed, not disappointed, silent in a way that felt heavy. James noticed it wasn't about that one canceled dinner. It was about something deeper. That silence revealed an old wound, probably tied to being let down before. No question could have exposed that. Only observation did. Here's the lesson. Observation is emotional literacy. It's the skill of reading patterns, micro-reactions, tone shifts, body language, the pauses between words. Anyone can listen to stories. Few can read the silences. And let me give you a cold warning. A woman can rehearse a story, but she can't rehearse her instincts. She can't fake how her body flinches when something reminds her of abandonment. She can't fake how her voice hardens when a topic touches betrayal. Those are emotional fingerprints, and they don't lie. Practical advice? Stop chasing verbal answers. Instead, tune into what happens when she's relaxed, unguarded, or caught off guard. Watch how she talks about old memories. Pay attention to her reactions when plans change, when she receives praise, or when she faces conflict. That's where her past leaks through. And remember, being observant isn't about being cold or calculating. It's about protecting your peace. You're not here to dig for trauma like a therapist. You're here to recognize patterns so you know what you're stepping into. Clarity is power. And power is what keeps you from walking blind into someone else's unresolved storm. Words can deceive, patterns never lie. Which one are you going to trust? You don't need to dig. You don't need to ask 1,000 questions and hope she gives you the truth. A woman's past is never hidden. It's written in her habits, her tone, her silence, her reactions. It's written in the small moments most men overlook, because they're too busy chasing the polished version of her story. Clarity is power. And the man who knows how to observe gains a kind of power most men never touch. Not power over her, but power over himself. The power to see things clearly, to stop wasting time on illusions, to step out of relationships built on lies and into connections that are grounded in reality. When you start observing instead of interrogating, you free yourself from the game of half-truths. You no longer buy into the highlight reel she shows the world. You start seeing the woman underneath, the one shaped by her history, her pain, her resilience, and her scars. And then you decide, do you want to join her journey or protect your peace and walk away? Either way, you're not blind anymore. This is your awakening call. Stop listening only to words. Start reading behavior. Stop being impressed by stories. Start being sharp enough to catch the patterns. A man who lives by this rule never gets blindsided, never gets trapped in someone else's damage loop. He knows what he's signing up for, and that makes him dangerous in the best way possible. So here's my challenge to you. The next time you're on a date, resist the urge to ask those cliché questions. Instead, pay attention. Notice her tone, her pauses, her triggers. Let her show you without even knowing she's showing you. That's how you protect your time, your energy, and your heart. If this video opened your eyes, even just one insight that hit you hard, I want you to drop a comment below and tell me, what hit hardest for you? Was it her words or her silence? I read every single one. And if you're the kind of man who refuses to live blind in dating, who wants to understand the deeper game, the psychology, the emotional layers, the truth most guys miss, then hit that subscribe button right now. Because in the next video, I'm breaking down the 5 types of emotional baggage you can spot in the first 10 minutes of meeting a woman and how to tell if she's healed or hiding. You're not going to want to miss that. Until then, keep your eyes open, your standards high, and your peace protected. You ever meet a woman who seems perfect, confident, charming, magnetic, but something about her feels off? Deep down, you sense a story she's not telling you. Ignore that feeling, and it could cost you years of your life, your emotional energy, and maybe even your self-respect. The truth? Women reveal patterns about their past without even realizing it. Clues that speak louder than their words. I'm about to show you 7 signs she slept with a lot of men. And the fourth one is the most dangerous manipulation tactic I've ever seen a woman use. As a relationship coach, I've watched countless men realize too late they ignored the signs. They thought everything was fine until it wasn't. Don't be that guy. Spot these patterns early and you free yourself to find a relationship that truly works for you. Subscribe and share in the comments a moment you suspected something was off in a past or current relationship. Your story might be exactly what another man needs to hear to avoid the same trap. Because in just a moment, I'm going to reveal the first sign, and trust me, it's one most men mistake for a good thing. Number 1, she's too comfortable with intimacy too soon. Now, I want you to really hear me here, because this is where most men get it wrong. You meet a woman, and within days, sometimes hours, she's talking about physical closeness, like it's ordering coffee. She sits across from you, locks eyes, maybe throws in a sly comment about past experiences, and you're thinking, wow, she's confident, she's liberated, she's into me. No, my friend, what you're seeing might not be confidence. It might be emotional erosion. A healthy woman, one who values connection, will have a natural barrier when it comes to intimacy, not because she's shy or repressed, but because she understands its weight. She knows that real closeness is meant to build over time, layered with trust, vulnerability, and emotional investment. When that barrier is missing, it's not liberation, it's a red flag. It means those boundaries have been crossed so many times they no longer exist. Think about it like a lock that's been forced open too many times. At some point, it doesn't protect anything anymore. It just hangs there, useless. That's what happens when a woman has repeated high-intensity encounters without the emotional foundation. The meaning is stripped away, and intimacy becomes mechanical. Something to do, not something to feel. Watch the little signs. Does she blush when the conversation turns intimate? Does she have moments where she hesitates, where her body language says she's processing what this means? Or does she glide through it like she's been down this road 1,000 times? Does she casually brush your knee, lean in just enough to make you feel the spark, without the slightest flicker of vulnerability? That's not chemistry, that's muscle memory. The real danger, you'll mistake her lack of modesty for deep connection. You'll think, we've got this crazy spark, it's fate. But the truth is, she's reenacting a script she's played before, and you're just the latest co-star. The words feel familiar to her because they are familiar. The rhythm, the timing, the way she touches you, it's all practiced. And here's what's brutal. When intimacy loses its emotional weight, it's almost impossible to get it back. You can't recreate the magic of firsts with someone who's made that moment a routine. You'll notice there's no buildup, no emotional tension, no sense of rarity. The bond you think you're forming? It's weaker than you realize, because the glue, emotional exclusivity, is missing. So here's my warning. Don't confuse instant comfort with genuine connection. Just because she's willing to cross the line early doesn't mean she's choosing you. It might mean the line doesn't exist anymore. And if that's the case, you're walking into a relationship where the most important bond, the one that grows from intimacy, is already broken before you even begin. Number 2, she carries a permanent emotional wall. This one is subtle, and it fools even the most emotionally intelligent men. She can sit across from you, smiling, laughing, engaging in playful banter. She might even share stories from her life, funny ones, charming ones, maybe even a few vulnerable moments that seem deep. But here's the truth. You're not getting the real her. You're getting the performance. A woman with a permanent emotional wall has mastered the art of letting you feel close without ever letting you be close. It's like she's giving you a tour of her house, but keeping every important door locked. You can peek through the hallway, admire the decor, maybe step into the living room, but the rooms where the real stories are kept, those stay shut. This wall is not the same as healthy boundaries. Boundaries protect you both while you get to know each other. This is different. This is a defense mechanism built brick by brick over years of bonding deeply, losing and deciding, never again. Every man before you has contributed to those bricks, some through betrayal, others through breakups that left her raw. Now she's a fortress. You'll notice it when conversations start to hover on the surface. Ask her about her fears, her childhood, the defining moments that shaped her, and she'll pivot. Maybe she'll crack a joke. Maybe she'll answer in vague cliches. Maybe she'll subtly change the subject so smoothly you barely notice. But deep down, you'll feel it. She's holding something back. Here's where it gets dangerous for you. A man who's serious about connection will naturally share parts of himself first, hoping it inspires her to do the same. You'll open up about your struggles, your ambitions, your past heartbreaks, and she'll respond warmly, maybe even in a way that makes you think she gets it. But her response will lack matching depth. She's reacting, not reciprocating. Over time, this creates an imbalance. You're giving more than you're receiving. You're investing emotionally into a relationship that's capped from the start. And when conflict hits, as it always does, her wall becomes impenetrable. Instead of working through the problem, she might shut down, disappear for a while, or decide the relationship just isn't working. That's not because she's confused. It's because she's learned that staying behind the wall feels safer than risking intimacy. So pay attention. If weeks turn into months and you're still circling the same surface-level conversations, still feeling that invisible gap between you no matter how close you get physically, it's not in your head, it's the wall. And loving someone who hides behind it will drain you, slowly and quietly, until you wake up realizing you've been alone the whole time. Number 3, she has an overcrowded male network. You've probably heard the phrase, "they're just friends." And yes, sometimes that's true. But when a woman's social circle is heavily male, when her phone lights up all day with messages from guys you've never met, when she somehow has a story about this one male friend for every topic you bring up, you're looking at a pattern, not a coincidence. Here's what you need to understand. Women who constantly keep multiple men in their orbit aren't just naturally friendly. In many cases, it's a validation loop. It's about always having a stream of male attention flowing in, no matter her relationship status. It's a quiet, constant hit of, "I'm wanted, I'm attractive, I'm relevant," and that's addictive. Watch for the signs. She maintains contact with ex-boyfriends, plural. She has male best friends who have made it clear they'd take things further if given the chance. When you ask about them, she brushes it off with, "Oh, he's harmless," or "We've known each other forever." But the truth is, harmless men don't send midnight texts. Harmless men don't conveniently call when you're out of town. Another tell? Her female friendships are minimal, strained, or practically non-existent. Why? Because close friendships with women require emotional reciprocity and depth. That's harder to maintain when you've trained yourself to seek validation in quick, surface-level hits from men. Male friends don't usually demand emotional vulnerability. They just offer attention and often flirtation. And then there's the unspoken backup plan. You might think she's loyal, and maybe she believes she is, but deep in her subconscious, she's keeping doors open. If your relationship ends or even hits a rocky patch, those friends can become replacements in a matter of days. She doesn't have to start from scratch. She just promotes someone from the roster. Here's the hard truth. A woman who's constantly plugged into a network of male attention isn't truly available. Not emotionally, not mentally. And no matter how much she insists, they're just friends, you'll always feel the quiet pull of competition, and that's not a foundation for trust. Number 4, she uses intimacy as currency. This one is dangerous, not just because it's manipulative, but because it's so easy to miss until you're already hooked. You might think you're sharing genuine moments of closeness, but what you're actually in is a transaction. She's not giving intimacy, she's trading it. Here's how it plays out. Things are tense between you. Maybe you've disagreed on something. Maybe you've said no to a request. Maybe she's caught in a lie. Suddenly, her body language shifts. She becomes softer, more affectionate, maybe even physically seductive. And just like that, the tension dissolves. You feel closer again. Problem solved, right? Wrong. The problem didn't go away, it just got paid off. On the flip side, when she's upset or wants to make a point, intimacy is the first thing she withholds. Not because she's genuinely not in the mood, but because she knows it gets a reaction. It's punishment dressed up as boundaries. She's learned that your desire for closeness can be leveraged to get what she wants, whether that's an apology, a favor, or your silence. This is not natural feminine intuition. This is learned strategy. Women who have spent years in short, high-turnover relationships often figure out which tools work fastest to regain control. And physical intimacy, when weaponized, is one of the most powerful. It's the ultimate bargaining chip because it taps into your biology, your emotions, and your ego all at once. The key word here is timing. Pay attention to when the affection flows and when it dries up. Is it spontaneous, or does it always seem to arrive right after you've done something she wanted? Does it vanish exactly when she's displeased? If the timing feels too precise to be coincidence, it's probably not. Because make no mistake, when intimacy becomes currency, love becomes business. And in that kind of business, you're never truly an equal partner. You're just a customer who doesn't realize he's paying. Number 5. She has mastered the art of reading and controlling men. There's a difference between a woman who understands men and a woman who studies them. The first is natural. She's observant, empathetic, intuitive. The second is deliberate. She's been in enough relationships with enough different types of men that she's basically run her own private lab on male behavior. And now, she knows exactly which buttons to press and when. At first, it feels amazing. She compliments you in a way that hits exactly where your ego lives. She notices the details you wish more people saw, the way you carry yourself, how you take charge, your ambition. You feel understood in a way that's rare. But here's where you need to be careful. Genuine understanding grows over time. Instant, perfect compatibility is often just a reflection of how quickly she's read you. She can identify your strengths and, more importantly, your insecurities faster than you think. And once she has that map, she can play you like a song. When she wants to pull you closer, she feeds your pride. When she wants to pull you off balance, she pokes at the cracks in your confidence. One minute, you feel like her hero. The next, you're questioning yourself and craving her reassurance. The danger here is that the manipulation is subtle. She's not storming into your life with obvious demands. She's shaping your emotional state in ways that keep her in control. She knows when to be sweet, when to be distant, when to praise, and when to let silence do the work. Every move is calculated to keep you invested and unsure at the same time. The scariest part? Men often mistake this for passion. They confuse emotional volatility with deep connection. The highs feel intoxicating. The lows make you chase harder, and before you know it, you're addicted to the cycle. That's not love, it's conditioning. If you start to feel like every emotion in your relationship is being managed, it's because it is. And once you see the strings, you can't unsee them. That's when you have a choice. Keep dancing for her approval, or walk away and reclaim the control she's been holding all along. Number 6. She has no shame or discretion about her past. Let's get something straight. This isn't about policing someone's history or expecting perfection. We're talking about the natural sense of privacy and selectivity that protects emotional intimacy. When that's gone, it says a lot about how she views connection and how she might view you. A woman with no shame or discretion about her past doesn't just share stories about her exes. She tells them casually, like she's recounting a weekend trip. She might openly discuss the number of people she's been with or give you vivid details about past relationships, almost as if she's trying to prove she's experienced. And here's the kicker. She sees it as a positive selling point. You'll notice there's no hesitation in her delivery, no softening of the language, no sense that certain things are too personal to broadcast. That's because, to her, they aren't personal anymore. They've been normalized through repetition. When something intimate has happened enough times, it stops feeling rare. And when it's not rare, it's not sacred. Ask her a question about her past and watch the reaction. If she becomes defensive, flips it back on you, or accuses you of being insecure or old-fashioned, that's not just deflection. It's an unwillingness to acknowledge how her past might affect the present. She's not engaging with the impact, only the argument. This lack of discretion can also bleed into how she handles your relationship. The same way she casually shares details about her past, she might share details about you with others. The boundary between private and public is thinner, and once that line is crossed, trust becomes fragile. So, pay attention to how she speaks about her history. Is there a sense of care in how she talks about intimate experiences? Or is it just another story in the lineup? Does she respect the weight of the connection you're building? Or does it feel like you're simply the next chapter in a long, casual series? Because if she can't see why discretion matters, she won't see why you matter. At least, not in the way you need her to. Number 7. She has a history of short-term relationships. At first glance, this one might seem harmless. People date, things don't work out, they move on. That's life, right? Sure. But when you start seeing a consistent pattern, relationships that never last more than a few months, connections that burn bright and then vanish, that's not bad luck. That's a blueprint. In these cases, every relationship she's had follows the same arc. Intense attraction in the beginning, rapid escalation, and then an equally rapid collapse. She'll describe the endings as mutual decisions or just not meant to be. But look closer. The stories usually center on external factors, timing, circumstances, the other person's flaws, never on her own inability to build something that lasts. Why does this matter? Because real, long-term commitment isn't built during the honeymoon phase. It's forged in the work that comes after. When conflicts arise, when novelty fades, when you're forced to navigate differences, that's where depth is formed. But if she's never stayed long enough to experience that stage, she's never developed the tools to handle it. This pattern also points to something deeper, a craving for the high of new attraction. The butterflies, the constant texting, the rush of being desired, it's addictive. And just like any addiction, once the buzz wears off, she starts looking for her next fix. The problem is, lasting relationships require stability, and stability doesn't give the same rush as novelty. So what should you do? Pay attention to her relationship history, not just her stories about it. Ask questions. Listen for patterns. If she's never had a relationship that made it past 6 months, that's not a random streak. It's a sign she's untested in the parts of love that actually make it last. Because once you see the pattern, you realize it's not about finding the right guy. It's about avoiding the discomfort of staying with him. And if that's her history, it might just be your future, unless you walk away. When you step back and look at these 7 signs together, a picture starts to form. It's not about judging someone's past for the sake of judgment. It's about recognizing how patterns shape people. Every one of these signs is a thread in a bigger tapestry, and that tapestry tells you whether a woman can truly build the kind of connection you're looking for. Too many men ignore the warnings because they're blinded by attraction or because they hope they'll be the exception. They think love will change her patterns. But patterns don't change just because you care. They change when a person decides to confront them head-on, and that's rare. You've now seen how a lack of emotional barriers, permanent emotional walls, constant male attention, weaponized intimacy, calculated manipulation, disregard for discretion, and a history of short-term relationships are not random traits. They're the footprints of experience, and those footprints lead somewhere. If you're paying attention, you'll see exactly where they go, and you can decide if that's a road you're willing to walk. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Share the signs you've recognized, because another man might be living them right now without realizing it. And if you want to keep sharpening your instincts, subscribe so you don't miss the conversations that will keep you 2 steps ahead. Your standards are not negotiable. Protect them like your future depends on it, because it does. You thought you found your soulmate. She was exciting, magnetic, intoxicating, everything your younger self wished for. But fast forward and you're exhausted, broke, and questioning your sanity. How did the woman who once lit up your world turn into the storm that burned it all down? The answer isn't love. It's something far darker. A psychological trap disguised as romance. Too many men step into marriage blind, missing the red flags that scream danger ahead. And the truth is brutal. It's not just your marriage at stake. It's your health, your children, and your future. In the next few minutes, I'll pull back the curtain and expose the exact signs you must never ignore if you want to avoid a lifetime of regret. As a psychologist and relationship coach, I've spent years listening to men tell me how the woman they thought was their dream partner slowly became their worst nightmare. Before we dive in, take a quick moment to subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, and share your thoughts in the comments. Now, let's get back to the story, because what you're about to hear could save you from the most devastating mistake of your life. She walks into your life like a spark that sets everything on fire. Her smile isn't just pleasant, it's intoxicating. Her attention feels like sunlight after years of living in the dark. Every text she sends makes your chest tighten. Every touch feels electric, and every goodbye feels like withdrawal from a drug you never meant to take. You call it love, but I'll tell you what it really is. Psychological warfare wrapped in silk. Real love is steady. It grows like a fire you build with care, slow, controlled, something that keeps you warm. But what you're feeling in those first weeks with a toxic woman isn't warmth. It's a wildfire, and wildfires don't sustain, they destroy. When you meet her, you think she's a once-in-a-lifetime connection. She asks about your childhood, listens with intensity, mirrors your values, makes you feel like she's reading your soul. But what's really happening is a perfect storm of emotional manipulation, most of which she's not even conscious of. Her chaotic upbringing taught her that chaos equals connection. So she recreates chaos, because that's the only language her nervous system knows. Not every woman with a painful past turns toxic. Many face their demons, do the work of healing, and build healthy, stable love. But when trauma goes unhealed, it often mutates into manipulation. And that's the type of woman we're talking about here. And here's the hook that gets men every time, the trauma bond. That's the roller coaster your brain mistakes for intimacy. The high after the fight, the relief after the storm. It feels more meaningful than the calm of a healthy relationship. Why? Because your brain is being hijacked. When she lashes out and then pulls you back in, your body floods with dopamine and oxytocin. It's chemical. You're not falling in love. You're getting addicted. Take David, 45, an engineer. Logical, grounded, not the type to fall for games. But then he met her. She made him feel alive again, like he was 25 and discovering love for the first time. The late-night calls, the passionate weekends, the arguments followed by tearful apologies. It was all-consuming. Within months, David couldn't concentrate at work. He was constantly checking his phone, constantly wondering if he'd done something wrong. He admitted, "I know this isn't healthy, but I can't let go. It's like I need her, even when she's hurting me." That's not romance. That's addiction disguised as devotion. Here's the truth most men don't want to hear. If what you feel with her looks and feels like an adrenaline rush, it's not love. Love doesn't spike your blood pressure and make you paranoid. Love doesn't keep you guessing whether she's in or out this week. Love brings peace. Addiction brings chaos. So test the difference. Step back for a day. Don't chase. Don't feed the cycle. Watch how she reacts. A woman capable of healthy love respects your space and comes back calm. A toxic woman will spiral, punish you with silence, or accuse you of not caring. That's your evidence. That's your chance to see whether this is a relationship or a psychological trap. Ask yourself one question early on. Am I addicted to her or am I connected to her? Addiction feels urgent, obsessive, like withdrawal when she's not around. Connection feels grounding, steady, like finally coming home. If it feels like a drug, it ends like a drug. Burnout, collapse, and regret. The intensity you're mistaking for passion is just the bait. Once you're hooked, that's when the real nightmare begins. Because being addicted to the high is only the opening act. Once you're tied in, she'll start bending, breaking, and bulldozing every boundary you thought you had. And that's when you realize addiction was the easy part. The real trap doesn't start with the chaos. It starts when she begins dismantling every boundary you thought you had. At first it feels small. She rolls her eyes when you say you need space. She ignores your request for calm conversation and blows up anyway. She stays silent for days, withholding affection until you're begging to know what you did wrong. That silence isn't peace, it's punishment. She's training you like a dog, rewarding you when you submit, punishing you when you push back. A toxic woman doesn't just ignore boundaries, she weaponizes them. She'll claim her space as sacred. Don't question me, don't check my phone, don't ask where I was. But the moment you ask for something simple like respect during an argument, she frames you as controlling. Your need for clarity becomes proof that you're insecure. Your desire for sleep becomes evidence you don't care. Your request for a calm talk becomes an attack on her freedom. This isn't partnership, it's psychological warfare. And here's the part most men miss. You start thinking her disrespect is passion. You confuse her aggression for strength, her chaos for intensity. That's why you let her push past your limits. You tell yourself, she's just fiery, or she's not like other women. But since when did love mean you had to walk on eggshells in your own house? Boundaries aren't optional. They're instructions for love. They tell both of you how to keep each other safe. When she bulldozes those boundaries, she's not showing strength. She's showing you she doesn't care about your safety. So stop negotiating your non-negotiables. If you need respect in conflict, you say it clearly. If you need time to process, you take it. If you need space for your hobbies or friendships, you defend it. And here's the test. A healthy woman might be uncomfortable, but she'll adapt. She'll find compromise. A toxic woman, she'll explode, accuse, or punish. You don't need her approval to enforce your limits. You need your backbone, because the moment you give up your boundaries, you're not in a relationship anymore. You're in captivity. Men aren't powerless here. The mistake isn't just meeting a toxic woman. It's ignoring the early boundaries you could have enforced, but didn't. Responsibility cuts both ways, and the earlier you test and defend your limits, the clearer her true nature becomes. And yes, you're scared she'll leave if you push back. But if a woman leaves because you asked for respect, then good. Let her. Better she walks out now than you live 20 years in a prison built by her tantrums. Boundaries aren't walls that keep people out. They're doors that teach people how to enter your life properly. A toxic woman doesn't respect doors. She kicks them down and calls it love. Don't confuse destruction with devotion. So test her early, say no sometimes, express a standard and watch her reaction. If she respects it, there's hope. If she turns it into warfare, you've just uncovered the truth and saved yourself years of pain. Because living without boundaries doesn't just cost you your dignity. It costs you your peace. And once you're conditioned to surrender every line in the sand, you'll find yourself checking her moods like a weather forecast, praying for sunshine while bracing for storms. Once the boundaries collapse, something worse takes over. You stop living like a man, and you start surviving like a meteorologist. Every morning you wake up not asking, "What do I want to do today?" but "What kind of weather am I walking into? Is she in a good mood, or is this the day she explodes?" Your happiness becomes hostage to her atmosphere. This is the hidden tax of living with a toxic woman. You're constantly checking her temperature, predicting storms you can't prevent. When she's happy, you breathe for a moment. When she's angry, you shrink to avoid triggering the next tornado. It's exhausting, and over time, it rewires your nervous system. You start bracing for impact even on calm days. And then comes the counterfeit intimacy, the illusion of closeness created through chaos. After the fights, the passionate reconciliations feel like proof of love. You tell yourself, we must really be connected if we can survive that. But that's not intimacy. That's trauma dressed up as passion. Real intimacy feels calm, grounding, like coming home. Counterfeit intimacy feels like drowning and then being pulled out of the water, only to be pushed back in again tomorrow. The costs don't stop there. A toxic woman drains your reserves like a siphon that never ends. Emotionally, every conversation is about her needs, her feelings, her problems. Financially, her impulsive decisions create crisis after crisis, and you're expected to clean up the mess. Socially, she isolates you from friends and family until your world shrinks to the size of her moods. Take Mark, 52, a successful business owner. On paper, he had everything: wealth, respect, influence. But at home, he was a prisoner of constant storms. His wife would pick fights before big meetings, sabotage family gatherings, and demand endless reassurance. Friends stopped inviting him to events because he always canceled last minute. His employees noticed his focus slipping, his energy draining. He told me, "I feel like I run a company during the day, and at night I'm just managing a crisis center." That's not marriage. That's captivity with paperwork. Here's the brutal truth. If your relationship feels like weather you can't control, you're not in love. You're in survival mode. And survival is no way to build a life. So what's the way out? Start by reclaiming your own climate. Create routines and spaces that aren't dictated by her moods, whether that's exercise, friendships, or simply time alone. Protect those at all costs. A healthy partner will respect and even encourage your independence. A toxic partner will sabotage it. And that's your signal. Don't wait until your world collapses to recognize the pattern. If every high comes with a storm, if every good day carries the weight of waiting for the crash, you're living in counterfeit love. The sooner you admit that, the sooner you can step out of the storm and into a life where peace isn't a luxury, but the baseline. Because even if you manage to endure it, even if you keep absorbing the emotional hurricanes, the final cost will come crashing down in courtrooms and custody battles. And that's when you realize, stormy weather inside the house eventually floods everything outside it too. Most men believe divorce is an escape hatch. You sign the papers, split the assets, and finally get your freedom back. But with a toxic woman, divorce isn't freedom. It's phase 2 of the war, and this battlefield is colder, more ruthless, and far more expensive. Here's what you have to understand. A toxic woman doesn't fight over what matters. She fights over whatever hurts you most. Custody, retirement savings, even trivial household items, all become weapons in her arsenal. If she can keep you drained, distracted, and defeated, she wins. Not because she needs the assets, but because she needs the fight. Conflict is her oxygen, and courtrooms become her new stage. And then come the children. What should be 2 parents creating stability turns into a tug-of-war with innocent lives in the middle. She doesn't just argue over schedules, she weaponizes affection. Suddenly, your kids are hearing whispered comments, "Your dad doesn't care," or "He's choosing his new life over you." Over time, those seeds of doubt grow into walls between you and the children you love most. John, 58, a decorated veteran, thought he'd faced enough battles for one lifetime. He served his country, raised his family, and when his marriage fell apart, he expected at least a fair ending. Instead, he walked into a 3-year legal nightmare. His wife contested everything. The pension he'd earned in uniform, the house they lived in, even visitation with their teenage son. Every time John thought they'd reached resolution, another motion, another accusation, another delay. She fabricated emergencies to keep hearings alive. She painted herself as the victim, while John, the man who had lived a life of service, was portrayed as unstable, controlling, dangerous. His breaking point came the day his son refused to visit him, repeating words he knew didn't come from the boy's heart. He told me, I faced enemy fire in combat. I never imagined my fiercest battle would be in a family court. Now layer technology on top of that. The toxic woman records arguments out of context, screenshots texts stripped of meaning, and parades them before friends, family, and sometimes judges. Social media becomes a weapon of reputation destruction. Cryptic posts, inspirational quotes about surviving toxic men, carefully staged photos, all fuel a narrative designed to make you look like the villain. And while she's broadcasting her victimhood, she's also monitoring you, demanding passwords, installing tracking apps under the guise of co-parenting, checking your every move to build cases against you. This is why men underestimate divorce. It's not paperwork. It's psychological warfare with lawyers as referees. And if you walk into it blind, you will lose years of your life, tens of thousands of dollars, and more importantly, pieces of yourself you can never get back. So, what's the solution? Preparation, not hope. Don't assume the system will see through manipulation. It rarely does. Document everything, every message, every incident, every violation of agreement. Protect your assets before you announce separation. Close joint accounts, separate passwords, secure your retirement. Build allies outside her reach. Trusted family, friends, a therapist who can testify to your stability. And most importantly, hire legal counsel who understands the psychological warfare you're up against. Here's the hard truth. You cannot negotiate peace with someone who thrives on war, but you can outlast by refusing to be blindsided. Clarity is your weapon. Documentation is your armor. And boundaries, legal, emotional, and digital, are your battlefield strategy. Don't wait until you're sitting across from her in court to realize who you married. Because by then, it's no longer just your sanity at stake. It's your children's future, your financial stability, and the reputation you spent a lifetime building. And even if you make it through, even if the judge bangs the gavel and you think it's over, the scars don't fade. They follow you into your body, your health, your ability to trust. Because surviving her in court is one thing. Surviving the damage she's etched into your nervous system is another battle entirely. Here's the part no one warns you about. You think once she's gone, the nightmare is over. You survived the fights, the courtroom, the financial wreckage. You imagine freedom will taste sweet. But for many men, that's when the real damage shows up. Inside your body, inside your mind. Living with a toxic woman is like being poisoned slowly every day. Not enough to kill you outright, but enough to wear down your systems until you forget what healthy feels like. Your sleep patterns fracture. You wake up at 3 a.m., heart racing, scanning the room as if danger is near. Your digestive system rebels, constant knots in your stomach, acid rising in your throat. Your immune system falters, and you're sick more often. This isn't bad luck. It's the biological price of chronic stress. And it doesn't stop with the body. Years of manipulation rewires your nervous system. You stop trusting your own judgment. You second-guess every feeling, every decision. Even after the relationship ends, a knock at the door or a sudden text triggers panic. This is what psychologists call complex PTSD. It's the residue of living too long in a war zone that wasn't on a battlefield. It was in your living room. Steve, 50, a long-haul truck driver, lived this reality. He endured a toxic marriage for over a decade. By the time he finally filed for divorce, he thought the worst was behind him. But freedom didn't feel free. He'd jolt awake at night with his heart pounding, convinced something was wrong. On the road, he felt anxious and distracted, replaying old arguments in his head. Even small disagreements with friends left him paralyzed with fear of escalation. He confessed, "I thought leaving her would fix everything, but she's still in my head." That's the invisible scar, when her voice lives rent-free in your nervous system, long after she's gone. Here's the problem. Most men ignore it. They think they just need more time, or they try to push through with work, alcohol, or distractions. But trauma doesn't heal by being ignored. It festers. And the longer you bury it, the more it shows up in your health, your relationships, your ability to live fully. So here's the solution. Treat recovery like survival, because it is. Start by reclaiming your body. Get back to basic health routines, sleep hygiene, exercise, clean eating, not as vanity projects, but as survival tools. Your nervous system needs signals of safety, consistency, predictability, care. Therapy isn't weakness, it's strategy. A trained professional can help you rewire the triggers and rebuild trust in your own perceptions. Don't underestimate community. Isolation is where trauma grows. Find spaces, support groups, trusted friendships, even online forums, where men speak openly about what they've endured. Naming the pattern takes away its power. Because the moment you realize, I'm not crazy, I was conditioned, you take back control, and most importantly, start small. Set one boundary, honor one need, say no once, and hold the line. Every act of self-protection rewires your brain to believe you're safe again. It won't be fast, but it will be real. Because here's the cruel trick. Even after she's out of your house, she lives in your head. You carry her chaos in your sleep, your stomach, your thoughts. But you don't have to let her stay there forever. Healing is possible. You can reclaim your body, your peace, and your future, but only if you stop pretending survival left you unscathed. And that brings us to the most important question. How do you spot these women before you're neck deep in trauma? Because prevention is always cheaper than recovery. By the time most men realize they've married a toxic woman, it's already too late. The damage is done, assets drained, health shattered, children caught in crossfire. That's why the most important lesson isn't how to survive her, it's how to spot her before you ever walk down the aisle. And here's the truth. The signs are always there. They're not hidden in some secret code. They're in plain sight, wrapped in charm, disguised as personality. You just didn't know how to read them. Pay attention to how she talks about her past. If every story is filled with villains, ex-boyfriends who couldn't handle her, friends who betrayed her, family who were all crazy, understand what she's really telling you. She's the common denominator. Her chaotic upbringing isn't just a sad backstory. It's the blueprint for how she'll navigate your relationship. Notice how she treats people she doesn't need to impress. Service workers, waiters, clerks. The woman who explodes at a barista over the wrong latte won't magically become gentle with you. That impatience will eventually be turned on the person closest to her, you. Watch how she handles small frustrations. Does she talk it out, or does she create explosions over details that barely matter? Healthy women see conflict as something to resolve. Toxic women see it as fuel for control. If every argument turns into a test of your loyalty, if she frames your needs as attacks on her freedom, you're not in a relationship. You're in training for psychological warfare. Don't confuse normal conflict with toxicity. Every relationship has arguments, moments of silence, and ups and downs. The difference is frequency, intensity, and intent. Toxicity is a pattern, not a single bad day. And here's the deadliest trap. Believing your love can fix her. It can't. Love doesn't rewire childhood trauma. Consistency doesn't erase abandonment wounds. Patience doesn't rebuild a broken foundation. Unless she's fully aware of her damage and committed to years of therapy, your devotion will only make you the crash test dummy for her unresolved pain. So what do? Test early. Set a boundary in the first months and watch. Say no politely. Delay a text response. Express a need that matters to you. Her reaction tells you everything. A healthy woman might feel uncomfortable, but she'll respect the line. A toxic woman? She'll punish you, guilt you, or accuse you of being unloving. That's your red flag. Don't excuse it. Don't rationalize it. Believe what you see. Another tool, time. Toxic patterns can't hide forever. Give the relationship space to breathe before making big commitments. The woman who thrives on chaos will eventually reveal it when things get stable, because stability feels unbearable to her. If you notice she only seems alive during drama, understand what you're signing up for. Remember this: prevention is freedom. It's far easier to walk away from 3 months of red flags than to escape 20 years of trauma bonds, custody battles, and PTSD. And this is where your choice becomes clear. Because once you've seen the pattern, you can't unsee it. You either step forward into peace or you step deeper into chaos. And if you choose chaos, understand, it won't just cost you. It will cost your children, your health, and the legacy you leave behind. So when you recognize the signs, don't hesitate. Don't negotiate. Don't pray she'll change. Walk away. Because the only thing more expensive than marrying the wrong woman is staying married to her long enough to forget what healthy love feels like. You've seen the cycle now, the intoxicating beginning that feels like destiny, the erosion of boundaries until you don't recognize yourself, the endless storms of counterfeit intimacy, the financial and emotional drain, the battlefield of divorce, the scars etched into your health, and finally, the signs that were always there in the beginning, if only you had known how to read them. So here's the choice, laid bare. You can call it passion. You can call it love. You can tell yourself you're strong enough to handle it. But in reality, choosing a toxic woman is choosing slow-motion self-destruction. Every year you stay is another year of your peace being siphoned away, your body breaking down, your children absorbing chaos as if it were normal. Healthy love isn't fireworks followed by explosions. It isn't a battlefield where every win feels like a loss. It's quiet. It's steady. It's respect that doesn't vanish the moment you set a boundary. And I know, after years of trauma bonds, calm might feel boring. But boring is where your soul can finally breathe. Men, listen closely. Choosing peace is not settling. It's survival. Stability is not weakness, it's strength. And walking away from chaos is not cowardice. It's the bravest decision you'll ever make. So if you recognize her in what you've heard today, don't ignore it. Don't wait for one more chance. Don't convince yourself you can outlove her pain. Walk away. Because the longer you stay, the deeper the hooks go. And some mistakes only let you make them once, before they remake you entirely. Your future self will thank you. Your children will thank you. And one day, sitting in a calm home, drinking coffee without fear of an explosion, you will thank yourself. Yes, some women do choose therapy, some change, and some couples even rebuild what was broken. But those cases are rare. You can hope for change, but you must never bet your life on it. Now, if this opened your eyes, even painfully, don't keep it to yourself. Hit subscribe, share this video, and leave a comment. Tell your story, or tell me the signs you missed. Because every man who learns these truths early saves not just himself, but the generations after him. Choose wisely. Because the wrong woman doesn't just cost you money, she costs you life. And life is too short to gamble on chaos or get a real answer. Not because she's evil, because the truth would change the way you see her forever. And she knows it. From her past, to her present intentions, to the quiet emotional betrayals she hopes you'll never catch. I'm about to walk you through 5 questions every woman lies about, and what those lies really reveal. This isn't about hate, it's about clarity. Watch closely, because the answers you've been getting, they're nothing compared to what's really going on behind her silence. This isn't just a video, it's a turning point. If you're ready to stop living in denial and start reading between the lines, then pause, subscribe, and comment below. No more blind trust. Say it out loud, write it down, let it be your new standard, because the moment you stop needing her to tell the truth is the moment you start owning yours. Let's begin with the first question every man has asked, and every woman has answered with a smile that wasn't real. Number 1. So, how many men have you been with? Let's stop pretending this is a harmless question, You think you're just making conversation, maybe trying to understand her better or connect on a deeper level. But to her, this question is a loaded weapon, and she's been trained her whole life to disarm it with a lie. I'll say it straight. No woman gives you the real number, not your girlfriend, not your wife, not even the one who swears she's an open book. Because telling you the truth would change everything. How you look at her, how you touch her, how you respect her. And she knows it. She's not answering to reveal. She's answering to maintain control. Here's how the psychology works. She calculates her answer based on how much truth you can handle without walking away, not how much truth there actually is. You're not getting transparency. You're getting damage control. If you're the conservative, traditional type, you'll hear 3, maybe 5 if she's bold. But what she's not counting is the one-night stands from college, the oops moments on vacation, the friend she hooked up with just once when they were drunk and confused. She'll say those don't count. And I'm here to tell you, that's bullshit. Women don't just lower the number, they edit the narrative. They redefine what counts as sex. If it didn't involve emotion, it doesn't count. If it was just once, it doesn't count. If it happened during a confusing time, it doesn't count. If it was with someone she regrets, definitely doesn't count. That 8 she told you, multiply it, at least by 2, maybe 3, and you're getting close. But here's the part that really matters. Why does she lie? Not because she's ashamed, not really. She lies to protect the image she knows you're clinging to. She knows you want to see her as clean, respectable, selective. And she knows, deep down, you can't unsee the version of her that's lived a different truth. This isn't about body count. It's about emotional strategy. She senses what kind of man you are. She reads your insecurities before you even open your mouth. She knows what number will make you feel like the special one, the exception. She wants you to believe she didn't explore much before you came along. She wants you to feel like you won her heart and her body over everyone else. So she edits, she rewrites, she performs. And you take the bait. You feel proud. You feel chosen. You feel safe. But let me hit you with a brutal truth. A woman who's really experienced has rehearsed her lie so well, she believes it herself. You ask the question. She barely hesitates. She answers fast, confident, direct. You think, wow, that's honesty. But what you just got was a well-practiced performance. And if she stumbles, if she hesitates, if her eyes dart sideways while she calculates, that's not confusion. That's calibration. Now, should you confront her? Should you push for the real number? No. That's not how power works in a relationship. Don't beg for the truth she's designed to protect from you. Watch her behavior instead. Does she have more sexual confidence than her 3 would suggest? Does her level of experience match the story she's telling? Does she joke too comfortably about crazy college years and wild nights? While still trying to convince you she's only been with a handful of men, look deeper. Because the truth isn't in her words, it's in the pauses, the inconsistencies, the avoidance, the smirk when you ask and she deflects with, "Why does it matter?" It matters because trust starts where fantasy ends. If you're building your emotional foundation on illusions, don't be surprised when it collapses. Let me leave you with this. A man who stops chasing answers and starts trusting what he sees becomes impossible to manipulate. Don't ask her to confess. Watch her perform. Then decide who you're really dealing with. Number 2. Are you attracted to any of your guy friends? You already know the answer. You've felt it in your gut. You've seen the way she lights up when he texts. You've caught the hesitation when she talks about him. But every time you bring it up, she smiles and says, "Come on, he's like a brother to me." And just like that, your instincts get gaslit. Here's what you need to understand. The just friends lie is the most powerful shield a woman has. It's the perfect trap, because the moment you question it, you're painted as insecure, jealous, controlling. But let me tell you something cold. If she had 0 attraction to him, She wouldn't need to defend the relationship like her life depended on it. She wouldn't get offended when you set boundaries. She wouldn't downplay your discomfort while protecting his presence. The truth is simple. Women keep attractive male friends because they serve a purpose: validation, attention, comparison, and sometimes, yes, backup. No, I'm not saying she's cheating, not yet, but emotional chess is being played, and you're not the only piece on the board. Here's the real psychological game. Women are taught to always have a safety net. Someone she can talk to when things get hard. Someone she claims is harmless but wouldn't hesitate to run to if your relationship crumbles. Someone who makes her feel seen in ways you no longer do. And the worst part? She enjoys keeping him around. Not because she's planning to leave you, but because he reminds her she has options. He compliments her when you forget. He listens with undivided attention when you're too tired. He replies instantly when you're busy. She says, "It's nothing." But deep down, she knows it's something. Let me make this crystal clear. If a woman needs male friendships to feel emotionally supported, and those friendships make you uncomfortable, it's not your jealousy that's the problem. It's her boundaries, or lack thereof. A woman who respects you will never make you question her loyalty. She won't guard another man's presence harder than she protects your peace of mind. She won't say you're overreacting when you express concern. She won't need to hide messages, delete calls, or turn her phone over when he texts late at night. But here's how she manipulates the narrative. She'll say, "You're being paranoid. You don't trust me. He's been there for me longer than you have." All of these are meant to reframe the conversation, make you the bad guy. Classic deflection. And when you try to explain your discomfort, she'll smile sweetly and say, "You have nothing to worry about." That phrase, that's code for, "I know exactly why you're worried, and I'm not going to stop." Let's break this down logically. If a man made your girlfriend feel uncomfortable, she'd expect you to cut him off. But when it's reversed, you're expected to tolerate, to trust her, to swallow your instincts and play nice. No, trust is earned through behavior, not blind obedience. And if you're watching her flirt subtly, dress differently when she sees him, or protect him more than she protects your peace, that's not friendship. That's emotional leverage. Now listen carefully. If she's fighting harder to keep her male friends than she is to keep you comfortable, you're not in a relationship. You're in a competition. And the worst part? You're the only one who doesn't know it. So stop asking if she's attracted to them. She won't admit it. She can't admit it. Because admitting attraction would shatter the illusion she's built, that you're the only man in her world. But deep down, you've always known you weren't. So here's your move. Stop arguing. Stop defending your discomfort. Start observing. Start enforcing standards. If she can't protect your peace, she's not protecting the relationship. Let her keep her friends, and you keep your power. Number 3, are you happy with me? This is the most dangerous question a man can ask, because if you have to ask it, you've already felt the distance. It starts subtly. She stops texting like she used to. She's tired more often. She used to light up when you walked into the room. Now, she barely looks up from her phone. So one night, you ask, "Are you happy with me?" And she pauses, smiles, says, "Of course, babe. I'm just stressed lately." Then kisses your cheek and changes the subject. You walk away with false relief, but your gut keeps whispering, something's wrong. Here's the cold truth most men don't want to hear. By the time she admits she's unhappy, she's already been emotionally gone for months. Women don't leave when they're first unhappy. They leave when they're done trying. When they've already compared you to someone else. When they've already built the story in their heads of why this relationship wasn't meant to last. That's why this question is so dangerous. Because if she tells the truth, you're forced to confront what you've been denying. And if she lies, you keep investing in a connection that's already breaking underneath your feet. Here's what most men miss. Women don't just lie to you, they lie to themselves. She tells herself she's just overwhelmed. She blames work, family, hormones, anything but the actual emotional detachment that's already happening. So when you ask, "Are you happy with me?" she says, "I'm fine, just tired. I'm happy enough. We've just been busy lately." All of these are code for, "I've been emotionally checked out, but I don't want to deal with the consequences of telling you that." You want to know if she's happy? Don't listen to her words. Watch her behavior. Is she still affectionate without being asked? Does she still touch you when there's no one watching? Does she get excited to spend time alone with you, or is she always too busy? Here's a brutal signal most men ignore. When she starts performing happiness for the outside world, she posts cute couple photos. She talks about you glowingly to friends. She plans vacations and anniversaries. But behind closed doors, she's distant, cold. She scrolls her phone in silence. She sleeps facing the other way. She avoids eye contact during real conversations. That's not love, that's performance. And performances don't last forever. When a woman is unhappy, but not ready to confront it, she builds emotional escape routes. She makes backup plans. She starts imagining life alone, or worse, with someone else. She compares you to happier couples. She wonders if she settled, if she gave up too soon. If you were just the safe choice, not the passionate one. And the irony? The man she compares you to probably doesn't even exist. He's a fantasy, a projection. But she clings to that fantasy because the real relationship, yours, is no longer filling her. Let me break this down clearly. If she answers your question with hesitation, avoidance, or deflection, she's already made up her mind. She's just waiting for the right moment to act on it. Women don't express dissatisfaction to fix the relationship. They express it when they're ready to leave. So the next time you ask, "Are you happy with me?" don't wait for the answer. Ask yourself instead, is she emotionally present? Is her effort consistent? Do her actions match her words? If not, stop seeking reassurance. Start preparing for the truth you've been avoiding. Because real happiness doesn't need defending. It doesn't need explanations. It shows up in warmth, in effort, in consistency. And when that disappears, no amount of "I'm fine" will bring it back. Number 4, have you ever emotionally cheated? Let me ask you something brutal. Do you really think cheating only happens when clothes come off? Because if that's what you believe, then I promise you've already been betrayed. The most dangerous affairs don't happen in beds. They happen in text threads, in office conversations, in long, emotional talks with just a friend. She'll never admit it. She'll look you in the eyes and swear, "I've never cheated on you, ever." And technically, she's telling the truth. Because in her mind, if nothing physical happened, then it doesn't count. But here's what she's hiding. She confided in another man about your relationship problems. She shared her fears, her dreams, her stress with someone else. She looked forward to his replies more than yours. She thought about him when you were sitting right next to her. That's not harmless. That's emotional infidelity. And it's everywhere. Here's how it usually starts. She meets someone at work, the gym, online. He's attentive, thoughtful, listens better than you do. At first, it's innocent. Then come the "you get me" conversations, the "you understand me better than anyone else." And before long, he becomes the emotional center of her life. She doesn't feel the same excitement talking to you anymore. Because the part of her that used to belong to you, her emotional intimacy, has been rerouted. You'll sense something's off. You'll ask, "Is there something going on with you two?" And she'll act offended. "What? No, we're just friends. I can't believe you'd even ask that." That response, it's not reassurance, it's deflection. She's not calming your fears. She's punishing you for noticing the truth. Let's get clear. If she's sharing parts of herself with another man that she no longer shares with you, she's cheating. Not physically, not yet. But emotionally, absolutely. And it gets darker. Because when a woman is emotionally involved elsewhere, your presence starts to irritate her. Your efforts feel forced. She starts comparing everything you do to him. He listens better. He's more supportive. He never judges me like you do. You become the villain. He becomes the savior. And she tells herself it's just friendship because it hasn't crossed that one line. But in her mind, in her heart, it already has. Let me explain the psychology behind this. Women are masters of emotional rationalization. She'll tell herself, I'm just venting. He's just a safe space. We're close, but it's never been inappropriate. But ask her this. Would she be okay if you had the same friendship with another woman? Would she be okay seeing you send heart emojis at 11 p.m.? Would she smile while watching you light up when your female friend texts you something flirty? Hell no, because deep down, she knows what this is. She just doesn't want to be held accountable for it. Here's what to look for. She stops opening up to you, but suddenly becomes best friends with another guy. She hides messages, deletes chats, turns her phone away. She gets more excited for conversations with him than date nights with you. She suddenly defends him fiercely, even when you express discomfort. These are not coincidences. They're symptoms of a shifted emotional investment. And let me tell you something most men don't realize. The emotional affair always comes before the physical one. It's the runway. And by the time she's emotionally involved, her loyalty to you is already gone. She may still live in your house. She may still sleep in your bed. But mentally, she's already somewhere else. So stop asking, did you cheat on me? Start asking, why do I feel like I'm no longer the one she leans on? Because that feeling, that's the real betrayal. And it cuts deeper than any physical act ever could. Number 5, do you still think about your ex? She'll say no. She'll say, that was a long time ago. I don't even think about him anymore. He's the past. You're my present. And maybe you'll believe her, but deep down, a part of you knows he's still there. Not in her phone, not in her DMs, not in her life, but in her mind. Here's the truth most men can't stomach. Women don't always move on emotionally just because they've moved on physically. And when an ex marked her deeply, he leaves something behind. Sometimes it's comparison. Sometimes it's regret. Sometimes it's a fantasy of what could have been. And the most dangerous part? You'll never see it. Because she's learned how to hide it perfectly. She won't talk about him. She won't bring up his name. She won't even follow him online. But every now and then, her mood changes when a certain song plays. She zones out when a memory hits. She remembers the exact date of a breakup anniversary without saying a word. She'll say she's over it, but she remembers things about him she forgets about you. Here's how you know. She gets emotional when talking about her past, but numb about your present. She compares how things used to feel without naming who made her feel that way. She still has old photos hidden somewhere, just for memories. And when she argues with you, she doesn't fight to fix things. She just pulls away, because in her mind, she's already lived through a breakup before and survived. And that's the quiet killer. When a woman has already proven to herself that she can live without the man she once loved, she'll never fully surrender to you. You're not her first great love. You're her next safe bet. Let that sink in. You think you're building a life together. She's still replaying the highlights of someone else. You're working hard to earn her trust. She's using your stability to heal from his chaos. You're asking her about the future. She's still stuck in a fantasy of the past. And what's worse, she'll punish you every time you bring it up. Why do you care about my ex? He's irrelevant. You're the one I'm with now. But ask yourself this. Why does she get so defensive about someone who supposedly doesn't matter? Because he does matter. She just can't admit it, because then she has to admit you're not enough to erase him. Let's go deeper. There are different kinds of exes, and each one leaves a different kind of scar. The one who broke her heart becomes the standard for emotional chaos. She'll test you constantly just to feel something intense again. The one who gave her the best sex becomes the benchmark for intimacy. She might love you, but wonder why it doesn't feel like that. The one who got away becomes the what if. No matter how good you are, part of her believes life could have been more exciting with him. The one who made her feel safe becomes the ghost she compares you to when things get tough. So if you ever asked her, "Do you still think about your ex?" and she said, "Of course not," just know this: she didn't lie to hurt you. She lied to protect the illusion that you're her everything, because the truth would unravel everything you've built. The truth would expose how much of her emotional world you don't actually own. But here's the final punch. A woman who still thinks about her ex can never fully commit to the man standing in front of her. She might love you, she might stay loyal, but some part of her still lives in that memory, and you'll never win against a ghost. So stop asking if she still thinks about him. Instead, ask yourself, does she make you feel like the only one? Or do you constantly feel like you're chasing someone else's shadow? Because if you're not her first choice emotionally, then you're not really chosen at all. So now you know. 5 questions she'll never answer honestly. 5 answers you'll never hear the truth about. Not because she hates you, but because the truth would break the image she's trying to maintain in front of you. Let that settle in for a second. You've spent years believing that love is built on trust, on words, on shared promises whispered in the dark. But what if I told you? It's not lies that destroy men. It's the lies they choose to believe. You've been taught to ask, to communicate, to be vulnerable. But when you ask a woman, how many men? Are you attracted to your friends? Are you happy? Have you ever emotionally cheated? Do you still think about your ex? You're not looking for truth. You're begging for comfort. And she knows it. That's why she gives you curated answers. The kind that keep the peace, not reveal the chaos. The kind that protect your ego, not her integrity. But I'm not here to tell you women are evil. I'm here to tell you one thing. You've been playing the wrong game. You don't need to interrogate her. You don't need her confessions. You need her consistency. You need to stop listening to what she says and start watching what she does. Does her behavior match her words? Does her loyalty show up in the moments that matter? Not when she's trying to prove a point, but when no one's watching? Because here's the truth. A woman who truly chooses you won't make you doubt it. She won't keep backup options. She won't dodge real questions. She won't need to be reminded what honesty looks like. So if you're constantly wondering where you stand, you already have your answer. Now listen carefully. Stop looking for truth in her answers. Start finding truth in your standards. Stop asking if she's cheating emotionally. And start asking why you're tolerating emotional neglect. Stop begging for reassurance. And start reclaiming your self-respect. Because a woman worth keeping will never make you feel like a second choice to her past, her friends, or her secrets. And if you still feel the need to ask those 5 questions, you already know the truth. You just don't want to feel the pain of admitting it. But pain is the price of clarity. And clarity? That's where your power begins. So here's your move now. Share this video with the man who's still believing the words, while ignoring the signs. He needs this wake-up call before it's too late. And if you've ever asked those questions, tell me in the comments what answer you got and what her actions really told you. Because the men who learn to see clearly are the ones who never fall for the performance again. And you're not here to be performed for. You're here to be chosen. Have you ever felt her pulling away, but every time you bring it up, she flips the script so smoothly you question your own reality? That's not just miscommunication, that's manipulation. And if you miss it, the cost is brutal. Wasted years, drained confidence, broken trust that may never fully return. The truth is, before she cheats, most women use the same psychological tricks. They sound harmless. They even sound mature. But underneath, they're designed to create distance while she prepares her escape. In this video, I'll walk you through the 4 exact lies you must recognize, because spotting them early could mean the difference between protecting your heart or losing yourself in the process. As a psychologist and relationship coach who has spent years working with men blindsided by betrayal, I can tell you, these lies are not random. They follow a precise pattern I've heard many times in private sessions. And before we dig into the details, make sure you subscribe, like this video, and share in the comments the moment you first realized something wasn't right. Your story could help another man connect the dots. Now let's begin. Because the first lie women tell sounds harmless, but it's the seed that grows into betrayal. Number 1. I just haven't been in the mood lately. Men, let me be brutally honest with you. This is the most common lie women use right before they cross the line. And it works on most of you because it sounds so damn reasonable. Everyone gets tired. Work piles up. Stress builds. Hormones shift. Who hasn't felt drained and not in the mood? You hear this line and your instincts tell you to nod, be understanding, and let it go. But here's the truth that most women will never tell you. When she loves you, stress doesn't push her away. It pulls her closer. When she's tired, she still craves your arms around her. Maybe not for wild passion every night, but for closeness, for comfort, for feeling safe in the man she trusts. Real love doesn't shut down physical affection. It seeks it out, even in exhaustion. So when she suddenly has no interest in touching you, no spark for weeks or even months, when she flinches at your hand on her back, when she treats even casual closeness like a burden, that's not about stress, that's about redirection. Her body didn't stop wanting intimacy. It stopped wanting intimacy with you. And here's the cruel psychology behind it. When a woman begins investing emotionally in another man, her body reacts. Intimacy with you starts to feel like betrayal, not of you, but of him. The new man becomes her emotional center, and suddenly you're the obstacle. Touching you feels wrong, dirty, even repulsive. She's protecting the bond she's secretly building elsewhere. This is why you'll see the strangest contradiction. With you, she's too tired. With the rest of the world, she's suddenly alive again. New workouts, new clothes, extra time in front of the mirror, perfume she hasn't worn in years. She's shaving, posting selfies, buying lingerie, but somehow never in the mood when it comes to you. That's not coincidence. That's a transfer of desire. Let me give you a story to make this real. David, a 41-year-old financial analyst, came to me devastated. His girlfriend of 3 years had been distant for months. Every time he reached for her, she pulled away, saying, "I'm just not in the mood. Work has me drained." And David believed her because it made sense. Long hours, pressure, deadlines. But then he started noticing something off. She was at the gym every morning at 6, something she hadn't done in years. She bought a new wardrobe, tight dresses, heels, expensive makeup. Her Instagram was full of confident selfies, while in private she avoided even holding hands. David realized the painful truth. She wasn't out of the mood, she was just out of the mood with him. That's the pattern you need to watch. Her mouth says, "I'm tired," but her actions scream, "I'm excited." Just not for you. And if you're not careful, you'll waste months or years making excuses for a woman who's already emotionally checked out. Now, I'm not telling you to panic the first time she turns you down. Real life happens. Fatigue, illness, stress, they're real. But if she consistently withdraws from you while simultaneously pouring energy into her appearance, her fitness, her social life, wake up. That's not a dry spell. That's a redirection of intimacy. Men, you cannot afford to ignore this, because if you do, you'll end up apologizing for having normal needs while she prepares her exit. You'll tell yourself she's just busy, just tired, just hormonal, while she's getting her emotional and physical needs met somewhere else. The mistake most men make? They think patience will fix it. They think being more supportive, more understanding, more accommodating will bring her back. Wrong. when her heart and body are elsewhere, no amount of understanding will make her crave you again. So what should you do? Don't argue. Don't beg. Don't shame her. Just observe. Compare her lack of desire for you with her renewed energy for everything else. And ask yourself the hard question. Is this really about stress, or is her desire already gone? Because here's the truth. The right woman may get tired, but she will never be too tired to want your closeness. If she loves you, she'll still want to curl up next to you, still smile when you touch her, still seek the comfort of your presence. If all of that has vanished while her energy for the world skyrockets, you already know what's happening. Not every woman who avoids intimacy is cheating. Sometimes it really is stress or exhaustion. But when the distance comes hand in hand with a sudden glow-up in her appearance, that's when it's no longer innocent. It's a red flag. Number 2, I just want to focus on myself right now. At first, this sounds like the most enlightened thing a partner could say. Who doesn't want a woman who invests in her mental health, who works on herself, who wants to grow? You hear those words, and you probably even feel proud. You think, finally, she's doing the inner work. She's healing. She's maturing. This must be good for both of us. But men, here's the hard truth. When a woman truly wants to grow inside a healthy relationship, she includes you in that process. She shares what she's learning. She wants to bring you along for the ride. She talks about attachment styles and then asks about yours. She reads a book on boundaries and says, "Hey, let's talk about how this applies to us." Real growth in love is collaborative. It draws the couple closer. When she suddenly wants to focus on herself in total isolation, when every effort you make to be part of her journey is met with resistance, when your presence is treated as an obstacle to her growth, that's not self-care. That's self-separation. It's her way of building a version of herself that no longer includes you. So when she steps out with someone else, she can tell herself she's simply outgrown the relationship. And the cruel twist? She'll make you feel guilty for even wanting to be included. She'll call you controlling. She'll say you're unsupportive. She'll accuse you of holding her back. She reframes your natural desire to stay connected as proof that you don't respect her independence. In other words, she weaponizes self-growth against you. Let me ground this in a real scenario. Chris, a 46-year-old who runs an auto repair shop, shared his story with me. His girlfriend started talking about healing her inner child and finding her authentic self. At first, Chris supported it wholeheartedly. He even paid for some of the weekend workshops she wanted to attend. But then he noticed a shift. Every workshop was for her only. Every journaling session was private. She didn't want to share what she was learning. When Chris suggested reading one of the same books so they could discuss it together, she snapped, "This is my journey, not ours." And every time Chris asked questions, she accused him of suffocating her growth. Meanwhile, her self-focus involved going out of town more often, staying late at events he wasn't invited to, spending hours online with new friends he never met. Chris realized what was really happening. She wasn't healing her relationship with him. She was creating the emotional distance she needed to justify betraying him. Men, this is the pattern. Self-work that excludes you is not self-work. It's exit strategy. Healthy personal development sounds like, "I'm learning new things about myself, and I want to share them with you." Fake personal development sounds like, "I need space to find myself, and your presence gets in the way." So how do you tell the difference? Simple. Observe whether her growth brings you closer or pushes you out. Does she include you in her discoveries? Or does every step she takes require you to disappear? Real growth makes love stronger. Fake growth makes betrayal easier. And here's where most men get blindsided. Because the language she uses sounds so noble, so evolved. Healing, boundaries, inner child, authenticity. These words are powerful shields. They make you feel selfish for questioning her. They make you doubt yourself for wanting to be part of her life. And that's exactly the point. If you feel guilty for asking to be included, she's already flipped the script on you. Men, don't get it twisted. A woman who loves you will never treat you like a roadblock to her evolution. She'll see you as part of it. If instead she frames your love as the obstacle to her growth, understand what's really happening. She's not healing. She's rehearsing her exit. Of course, self-growth can be genuine. Many women truly mean it. But when her growth journey keeps excluding you, that's not self-care. It's groundwork for walking away. Number 3, you're being too controlling. This is one of the most clever deflections women use because it makes you doubt yourself instantly. You ask a perfectly reasonable question, "Where were you last night?" Or, "Who were you texting during dinner?" And suddenly you're the bad guy. Instead of answering, she flips it. Now the issue isn't her behavior, it's your supposed insecurity, your toxic masculinity, your controlling nature. Men, listen carefully. When a woman has nothing to hide, her instinctive response to questions is clarity, not combat. She explains, she reassures, she gives details without you even needing to press. Transparency feels natural when you're telling the truth. But when she's keeping secrets, every question feels like an interrogation. Every answer risks exposure. So she doesn't answer. She attacks. She frames your curiosity as abuse. She makes you question your own sanity for having basic relationship needs. Let me show you how this plays out. Mark, a 54-year-old restaurant manager, told me about his girlfriend. One night, he noticed her texting late, hiding her phone screen. He asked casually, "Who's messaging you at this hour?" Nothing aggressive, no raised voice, just curiosity. Her response? She exploded. "Why are you always checking on me? You're so possessive. I can't breathe with you. You're insecure, controlling, toxic." Within minutes, Mark found himself apologizing for even asking. He left that conversation believing he had done something wrong when all he had done was ask a normal question. Later, he learned she had been building a relationship with a coworker, exactly the man she was texting that night. The attack wasn't random, it was calculated. That's the key, men. When the truth threatens exposure, the best defense is offense. By attacking you, she shifts the spotlight off her behavior and onto your supposed flaws. And if you're not careful, you'll spend weeks, months, even years apologizing for simply wanting honesty. Now let's be fair for a moment. Yes, some men truly are controlling. If you're demanding her passwords, tracking her every move, monitoring her friendships, that's not love, that's paranoia. But that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about basic relationship questions, the kind any healthy couple should navigate easily. Where were you? Who's this new friend? Why are you coming home late? These are not acts of control. These are acts of care. A faithful woman doesn't feel threatened by those questions. She sees them as natural. She may even appreciate them because they show you care about the relationship. But a woman who's hiding something will treat every question as an attack. Here's the red flag. If every time you ask for clarity, she attacks your character instead of giving you an answer, you're not being controlling. You're being manipulated. And here's what makes this so dangerous. Over time, her accusations can rewire your mind. You start second-guessing yourself. You stop asking questions altogether. You tell yourself, "I don't want to seem insecure," or "Maybe I am too controlling." And that's exactly what she wants, for you to silence your instincts while she continues unchecked. Men, remember this. Questions build trust. Accusations destroy it. If she consistently makes you feel guilty for asking basic things, that guilt is not coming from your insecurity. It's coming from her fear of being found out. So don't fall into the trap. Don't let her label you the villain for seeking the truth. A woman who truly loves you won't punish your curiosity. She'll meet it with openness. If she can't do that, if every question leads to you apologizing, understand this. It's not because you're too controlling. It's because she's too exposed. Not every woman who pushes back against questions is hiding something. But when every reasonable concern gets flipped into an attack on your character, that's not honesty. It's deflection. Number 4, I just want us to be honest with each other. On the surface, this sounds perfect. Honesty is what every man wants, right? Finally, she's ready for transparency. Finally, she wants real communication. You hear those words and think, this could fix everything. But here's the deception. She's not asking for honesty. She's setting the stage for selective honesty. That means she gets to dig deep into your life, your past, your vulnerabilities, while carefully curating what she reveals about hers. It looks like openness, but it's actually control. Here's how it works. After announcing this new commitment to honesty, she suddenly becomes curious about everything in your life. She wants to know your childhood traumas, your regrets, your mistakes. She asks about every woman you've ever dated, about your insecurities, about the worst moments of your life, and you open up because you think that's what real intimacy is. But when you flip it back, when you ask about her new male coworker, or why she's been distant lately, or why she hides her phone, suddenly the tone shifts. She says you're interrogating her. She says, I thought we agreed not to be controlling. She accuses you of lacking trust. In other words, she uses your own desire for honesty against you. Let me illustrate. Tom, a 50-year-old insurance agent, told me about his girlfriend. She always wanted to know everything about him. His first heartbreak, his fears about aging, even embarrassing mistakes from college. She said it made her feel closer to him. And Tom, being a good man, opened up. But whenever he asked her even the simplest questions, like, who were you out with after work? Or, can I see the messages you were upset about? She'd dodge, deflect, or accuse. You're being too suspicious. Why can't you just trust me? I'm telling you so much and you still want more? Do you see the trick? She framed selective sharing as deep intimacy. She made Tom feel unreasonable for wanting the same openness she demanded from him. And while Tom was busy bearing his soul, she was hiding the one thing that mattered most: her growing connection with another man. This is the cruel genius of selective honesty. It gives you just enough truth to keep you calm, while hiding the truths that would set off every alarm in your body. It feeds you scraps of transparency so you feel guilty for asking for a full meal. Men, real honesty is mutual. It flows naturally in both directions. It's not rationed out like a political statement. It doesn't feel like pulling teeth, and it doesn't make you feel guilty for asking. Real honesty builds safety. Selective honesty builds confusion. Here's the red flag. If she's open about things that make her look good, or things that win your sympathy but shuts down when the questions cut closer to her behavior, understand what's happening. That's not vulnerability, that's strategy. And the longer you buy into this, the more she gains control. She learns everything about you, your weaknesses, your fears, while you learn almost nothing about her reality. And by the time the truth surfaces, she's already rewritten the story in her favor. So don't be fooled by this polished version of honesty. Watch how it plays out. Ask yourself, does her openness make me feel secure, or does it make me feel like I'm crazy for wanting more? If it's the second, you're not dealing with honesty. You're dealing with manipulation. Men, hear me clearly. The right woman won't ration the truth. She won't make you feel guilty for wanting transparency. She won't weaponize honesty as a shield for secrecy. She'll make the truth easy to see, not impossible to find. Real honesty is mutual, not selective. If she shares small details but dodges the big ones, that's not openness, it's strategy. And strategy in secrecy almost always points to betrayal. Now let's get to the one thing you must do when you hear any of these lies. This is the turning point, men, so listen carefully. The instinct most men have is to argue, to demand answers, to become the detective in their own relationship. But that only drags you deeper into her frame. The more you chase, the more you look insecure. The more you argue, the more you feed her excuses. And while you're debating her words, she's already proving her actions elsewhere. So here's the golden rule. Don't argue, don't chase. Just observe. Actions never lie. Let me give you a practical checklist, one lie at a time. When she says, "I just haven't been in the mood," don't fight her on it. Watch instead. Does she still want closeness in small ways? Cuddling, holding hands, spending quality time? Or has she withdrawn completely while suddenly investing in her appearance for everyone else? That contrast tells you everything. When she says, "I just want to focus on myself," don't beg to be included. Observe. Does her self-growth bring her closer to you, or does it require distance from you? Does she share her journey, or does she insist it's a solo mission where your presence is inconvenient? True growth includes the partner. Fake growth excludes him. When she says, "You're being too controlling," don't get defensive. Ask yourself, were my questions unreasonable? Or were they basic things any caring partner would ask? If it's the latter, and she still attacks you, that's not about you being controlling. That's about her needing cover. When she says, "I just want us to be honest with each other," don't get swept up by the promise. Watch if the honesty flows both ways. Does she give you transparency as freely as she demands it from you? Or are you the only one on the interrogation chair while she carefully curates what she shares? This is how you protect yourself, by stepping back, observing patterns, and letting her behavior reveal the truth. You don't need to expose her with arguments. She'll expose herself with her actions. And here's the most important piece. Trust your intuition. Men, your gut is not paranoia. It's data. It's your subconscious noticing shifts in tone, energy, micro-expressions, things your conscious mind hasn't caught up with yet. When everything she says sounds logical, but your chest feels heavy, trust your chest. That's your radar screaming at you. Remember this. The right woman will never require you to be a detective. She'll make honesty easy, not impossible. She'll make love safe, not confusing. If you feel like you're constantly being spun in circles, that's not love. That's manipulation. So don't argue. Don't beg. Don't lose years trying to logic your way through lies. Step back, observe, trust your gut. Your instincts will save you long before her words ever will. So let's bring this home. We've walked through 4 of the most common lies women tell before they cross that line. Number 1, "I just haven't been in the mood lately." That's not about stress. It's about her desire shifting away from you. Number 2, "I just want to focus on myself right now." That's not self-growth. It's strategic distancing dressed up as personal development. Number 3, "You're being too controlling." That's not your insecurity. It's her deflection, turning your basic questions into an attack. Number 4, "I just want us to be honest with each other." That's not transparency. It's selective honesty, designed to give you scraps while she hides the core truth. Now, if you only remember one thing from this entire video, let it be this. The right woman will never require you to be a detective in your own relationship. She won't make you feel crazy for asking basic questions. She won't punish you for wanting closeness. She won't hide behind excuses of growth, honesty, or boundaries. She'll make love easy to see, not impossible to prove. And men, this is where your power comes in. You don't win by arguing. You don't win by begging. You win by watching, by trusting your gut, by walking away when her actions scream louder than her words. That's how you protect your time, your heart, and your sanity. So here's what I want you to do. If this video gave you clarity, don't just sit on it. Hit that like button right now so other men wake up too. Subscribe, because every week I'll be exposing the truths nobody else will tell you. Drop a comment. Tell me what city you're watching from. Because men around the world are fighting the same battles, and you are not alone in this. and share this with a brother who needs to hear it. Remember, manipulation thrives in silence. Truth spreads when men like you speak it, share it, and live it. Don't stay in the dark, stay awake, stay sharp, and never let anyone convince you or routine. But the truth is harsher. Women rarely confess, yet they always reveal. And if you miss the signals, you become the quiet accomplice of your own humiliation. That's why today, I'm about to reveal 8 signs that give away a woman who just slept with someone else. Signs most men ignore until it's too late. And the last one? It's the nail in the coffin, the one she can't hide no matter how hard she tries. Before I walk you through these 8 signs, take a second to subscribe and hit like. And let me know in the comments what city you're watching from. I want to see how far this message is reaching, because betrayal speaks the same language no matter where you live. And now, let's get back to the story. The first sign I'm about to show you is subtle, silent, and it's the one that quietly destroys more men than they realize. Number 1, the cold silence of her body. There's a kind of silence that doesn't come from words. It comes from the body. And when you've been with a woman long enough, you know that silence. You know when her touch has weight, when her kiss has warmth, when her body is reaching for you without you asking. And you also know when that current goes dead. This is one of the hardest signs to face because it doesn't scream at you. It whispers. You lean in to kiss her and she turns her face slightly. You touch her shoulder in bed and she stiffens instead of melting. She says she's tired, but her body isn't heavy with exhaustion. It's heavy with indifference. That difference matters because tiredness recovers with sleep. Indifference doesn't. Here's the truth most men don't want to admit. When a woman has been fulfilled by someone else, she doesn't come back to you hungry. She comes back satisfied. And satisfaction leaves no space for you. Imagine trying to light a fire that's already burned itself out. No matter how many matches you strike, the wood stays cold. That's what it feels like when her body has already given itself elsewhere. The mistake men make here is denial. You tell yourself it's just stress, or it's age, or this is just what happens in long relationships. No. Attraction doesn't die of old age. It dies when it moves to another source. If she used to pull you close after work but now rolls away, that's not routine. It's a signal. So what do you do with this knowledge? You don't beg. You don't push harder. You observe. You test. Instead of chasing, pull back. Watch if the distance shrinks on its own or if it widens even further. A woman who still desires you will eventually reach out again. A woman who's given herself away will let the silence deepen. Your job isn't to force her body to respond. Your job is to recognize when the response is gone. The shift is painful, yes, but it's also liberating. Because once you stop lying to yourself, you stop wasting energy on a flame that someone else already put out. And here's the problem. If the body doesn't speak to you anymore, don't think the truth will hide. Because if her skin has gone silent, her habits will start screaming. If you don't see it in her touch, you'll smell it in her rituals. Number 2, the cleansing ritual. When a woman has been intimate with another man, she doesn't walk through your door carrying the scent of betrayal. She walks in smelling fresh, too fresh, a new perfume that wasn't there before, a shower that lasted longer than usual, clothes changed for no reason, underwear swapped in a way that doesn't match the rest of the day. On the surface, it looks like self-care. In reality, it's a cover-up. This is what I call the erasing ritual. She's not just cleaning her body, she's trying to clean her conscience. And most men miss it because they want to. You tell yourself, she just likes to feel fresh, or she's trying a new scent. That's how you gaslight yourself, because you don't want to face the darker possibility that she's removing the traces of someone else before you notice. Here's how it works. A woman knows her body tells stories. Skin holds onto smells, hair carries traces, clothes remember contact. So she scrubs, she sprays, she hides the evidence under lavender and soap. And the irony is that the more she tries to erase, the louder it becomes. That sudden obsession with hygiene isn't a random act, it's a pattern. Let me be clear, this doesn't mean every shower equals betrayal. That's not the point. The point is change. If she never cared much about rushing to the bathroom after work but suddenly does, if she's suddenly guarding her laundry like it's classified, you pay attention. Psychology isn't about absolutes, it's about shifts. It's about noticing what no longer fits the rhythm of who she was with you. So what's the move? Stop excusing the inexcusable. Don't laugh it off. Don't pat yourself on the back thinking, at least she's taking care of herself. No, observe. Connect the dots. If this ritual repeats, if it always comes with that too perfect smile afterward, you know what's going on. The mistake men make is ignoring their nose and their gut. You smell the perfume, but you call it fragrance instead of deception. You notice the over-cleanliness, but you label it personal growth. That's how you become an accomplice to your own replacement. The solution is awareness. When the pattern shows up, you don't confront with rage. You acknowledge with clarity. You don't need to accuse. You need to see. Because once you see it, you can't unsee it. And that clarity changes how you show up. But here's the thing. Hygiene is just the surface. Underneath, the game goes deeper. Because when her body is clean, she still has to deal with her emotions, and guilt has a way of spilling out sideways. Number 3, the blame game, unjustified irritation. When guilt becomes too heavy for her to carry, she doesn't confess it. She transfers it. Suddenly, you're the problem. You walk through the door and instead of a hello, you get a complaint. You load the dishwasher, wrong. You're too quiet. You're too talkative. Whatever you do, it's not enough. That irritation isn't random, it's strategy. Here's the psychology behind it. If she paints you as the villain, she doesn't have to feel like the betrayer. She rewrites the script in her head. In her version, she didn't step outside the relationship because she wanted to. She did it because you were inattentive or controlling or boring. This is projection at its sharpest. She can't handle the conflict inside herself, so she pushes it onto you. The trap most men fall into is defending themselves. You try to explain, you argue, thinking logic will fix it, but you can't out-logic guilt. The more you defend, the more ammunition she gets to keep painting you as the bad guy. And before you know it, you're walking on eggshells in your own home. Here's the shift. Stop playing defense. You don't need to win the argument. You need to win your dignity. Next time she snaps at you over something ridiculous, don't rise to the bait. Don't beg, don't debate. Look her in the eye and say calmly, you don't need to fight to justify what you've already decided. Then step back. Not out of weakness, but out of strength. You're showing that you see the tactic and you won't dance to it. That one move flips the dynamic. Because when you don't play the role she wrote for you, her script collapses. Now the weight of her guilt sits where it belongs, with her. And you just claimed back your emotional ground. Men often ask me, but isn't staying silent weak? No. Weakness is letting someone bait you into chaos. Strength is control. You're not ignoring the issue. You're refusing to be manipulated by it. That's what separates a man being drained from a man standing tall. But remember this, projection is powerful, but it isn't the final mask. There's another battlefield where the truth shows up without her even speaking, a place no excuse can cover, and it's in her body itself. Number 4, the body doesn't lie. A woman can rehearse her excuses. She can mask her moods. She can polish her story until it sounds convincing. But there's one place she can't control, her body. And this is where most men betray themselves, not because they can't see, but because they refuse to look. You know her. You know her rhythms, her warmth, her reactions. That's why when something changes, you feel it, even if you don't want to admit it. Maybe she feels unusually tense or unusually relaxed. Maybe her responsiveness has shifted, either exaggerated or strangely absent. Sometimes it's subtle, sometimes it's glaring, but it's never random. Here's the cruel part. You don't need to be a doctor to notice. You need to be honest. Men often explain it away. Maybe it's hormones. Maybe she's stressed. And yes, those things can happen. But when the shift is sudden, when it doesn't fit the usual pattern, you owe it to yourself to pay attention. Because ignoring what your senses already picked up is the fastest way to humiliate yourself. The mistake is thinking that by pretending everything's fine, you're saving the relationship. You're not. You're just postponing the collapse. A body that has been with another man carries an imprint, not always visible, but always felt. And when you sense it, but you force yourself to stay quiet, you're lying to yourself more than she's lying to you. So what do? First, stop running from your intuition. If something feels off, don't shove it down. Let yourself register it. Second, stop overcompensating. Men often respond by trying harder. More affection, more patience, more effort in bed, as if more giving will fix what's already been taken. It won't. You don't win desire back by throwing effort at it. You win by recognizing when it's gone. Here's a practical step. Instead of chasing her body, step into clarity. If intimacy feels wrong, scale back and observe. Don't accuse, don't interrogate. Just notice how consistent the change is. That awareness is your shield. It prevents you from investing more into someone who's already detached. And the deeper truth? If you ignore your senses, you're not being strong, you're being scared. Strength isn't denial. Strength is facing what you already know, even when it burns. But guilt doesn't always show up as coldness. Sometimes, to cover the cracks, she goes in the opposite direction. She turns warm, affectionate, even tender in a way that feels almost too good to be true. And that's exactly what it is. Number 5. Excessive affection, the theater of guilt. Not every betrayal looks cold. Sometimes it walks through the door wrapped in kisses, hugs, and a sudden wave of sweetness. And if you're not paying attention, you'll mistake guilt for love. This is one of the cruelest tricks because it plays directly on your hope. You've felt her slipping away, you've sensed the silence, and suddenly she's holding your hand again, kissing you on the cheek, whispering, "I love you," with watery eyes. And your heart wants to believe it's real. You think, she's coming back to me, but she isn't. She's trying to come back to herself. That affection isn't for you. It's for her conscience. Here's the psychology. After crossing the line, many women don't pull away. They pull closer. Not because they've rediscovered their desire, but because they need to silence the guilt. Touching you, cooking for you, saying nice words. It's all part of the act. The act isn't to keep you happy. It's to keep her from drowning in self-disgust. The mistake men make is treating this affection like a second chance. You drop your guard, you stop observing, you breathe out in relief, and that's when you lose all leverage. You become the comfort toy, the safe space she clings to while her passion burns somewhere else. You end up holding her guilt, not her love. So what's the move? Learn to test the source. Ask yourself, does this affection come with consistency or only in waves after unexplained absences? Does she touch you with desire or with obligation? Does she lean in with warmth or does it feel rehearsed, almost exaggerated? Those questions cut through the fog. And here's the tough medicine. Don't reward guilty affection. Don't let her wipe her conscience on your shoulders. You don't need hugs that are born from betrayal. What you need is honesty, even if it's cold. And sometimes, the strongest thing you can say is this: "I'd rather have your silence than your guilty embrace." That statement isn't for her, it's for you. It's your way of reclaiming self-respect in the face of false tenderness. Because here's the truth: love doesn't need theater. Real connection doesn't show up only after guilt. If her affection feels like an apology instead of desire, you already know the difference. And once you know, you can never go back to pretending. But if you keep accepting her guilty embrace, the next stage is worse. Because she won't just touch you without desire. She'll stay with you physically while her mind drifts miles away. Number 6. Emotional absence in intimacy. There's a difference between a body beside you and a soul with you. And once you've felt that difference, it's impossible to unfeel it. This is the stage where betrayal cuts the deepest, not because of what she does, but because of what she withholds. She gives you her body, but she no longer gives you herself. Picture this. You're in bed, everything looks normal. She touches you, she moves, she even moans. On the surface, it's all there. But something is missing. Her eyes are empty. Her energy doesn't sync with yours. You can feel that she's somewhere else, replaying a memory that doesn't involve you. That's not intimacy. That's theater. And here's the brutal truth. A woman who's emotionally absent during intimacy is already gone. You're not making love. You're playing a role in her cover-up. And men who ignore this always tell themselves the same comforting lie. She's just tired, or it's stress. But deep down, you know the difference. Tiredness still allows presence. Stress still allows connection. This absence, it's a void. The mistake most men make is pushing harder. You think, if I try more, she'll come back. So you give more affection, more patience, more effort, hoping to win her over. But the more you push, the further she drifts, because her fire isn't missing, it's burning somewhere else. And every extra ounce of effort you give just teaches her one thing. She doesn't need to give anything back. So what's the solution? Stop chasing ghosts. Respect yourself enough to notice when her soul isn't with you. Pull back, say less, and most importantly, don't confuse physical participation with emotional presence. When her spirit has left, your job isn't to drag it back. It's to decide whether you'll keep lying in a bed that feels colder by the night. Here's a simple step. Next time you sense that absence, don't cover it with more effort. Pause, look at her, and in your mind, tell yourself the truth. I'm not here to beg for connection. I'm here to recognize reality. That shift in mindset alone changes everything. It stops you from being the man who tries to revive a bond that's already been buried. Because being next to a woman who isn't truly with you isn't love, it's humiliation. And if you let that humiliation settle, the next sign will expose it in plain daylight. She won't just leave you emotionally absent in bed, she'll start leaving you physically absent in time. Number 7. The late returns, empty excuses. When love is real, time bends to make room for it. A woman who still desires you will find her way back to you, even on the busiest days. But when her fire is gone, suddenly the clock turns against you. She's late. Again and again. And every excuse feels thinner than the one before. She tells you work ran long. Her phone died. A friend needed her. At first you want to believe it. You convince yourself these are normal things, because yes, life gets messy. But when messy turns into a pattern, when lateness becomes routine, it's not about life, it's about priority. And you're no longer at the top of the list. Here's the psychology. Lateness is more than missing time. It's a test. She's not just running late. She's measuring how much you'll tolerate. She wants to see if you'll question it, if you'll push back, or if you'll keep accepting less while hoping for more. Every time you let it slide, you train her. You teach her that your dignity is negotiable. The trap most men fall into is silence. You see the inconsistency, you feel the sting, but you swallow it. You tell yourself, if I say something, I'll sound insecure. But insecurity isn't asking for respect. Insecurity is pretending you don't notice. So what's the move? Call it what it is. Not with yelling, not with begging, but with boundaries. The next time she drifts in late with another flimsy story, don't interrogate. Don't demand details. Simply look at her and state the truth. You weren't here, and that tells me everything I need to know. Then let the silence sit. That silence is more powerful than any argument because it places the responsibility back where it belongs, on her choices. Here's a practical step. Track the pattern, not the excuse. Don't waste time dissecting the details of each story. Instead, pay attention to frequency, to tone, to how your gut reacts every time. Patterns tell the truth even when words don't. And here's the harsh reality. A woman who still chooses you will always come home. Maybe late once in a while, sure, but not as a habit. If she no longer returns to you, it's because she's already returning to someone else. But lateness is only half the story, because even when she tries to cover it, her own words will betray her. And when her story collapses under its own contradictions, that's when the truth finally breaks wide open. Number 8. The collapse of her story. Stories are fragile things. They can be rehearsed, polished, and repeated, but the moment pressure builds, cracks appear. And when a woman has crossed the line, her story eventually collapses under its own contradictions. You've seen it before. She comes home late, words tumbling out too fast, details changing with each retelling. One night it's a coworker who needed help. The next time it was a last-minute errand. You notice the gaps, the mismatched timelines, the way her tone doesn't match her words. And most telling of all, you notice her eyes. They don't hold your gaze anymore. They dart, they drop, they flicker with unease. That's not stress. That's deception struggling to keep its balance. Here's the mistake men make. They demand airtight evidence. They want proof, a smoking gun, something undeniable. But the truth doesn't always come with a receipt. It comes in inconsistencies. It comes in the way her story unravels the more you listen. The harder she tries to control the narrative, the more obvious it becomes that the narrative is slipping away from her. So what's the move? Stop playing detective. You don't need to gather evidence for a courtroom trial. You already have the signals, the changes, the silences, the patterns. When her story collapses, you don't argue with it. You step out of it. You don't beg her to make it make sense. You don't yell for confessions. You simply decide, I don't believe you and I don't need to anymore. That's not an accusation. That's a boundary. And here's the empowering shift. Once you stop demanding explanations, you reclaim your power. You stop being the man chasing clarity from someone who thrives on confusion. You become the man who sets the line. And the line is simple: respect or nothing. Practical step? Practice quiet recognition. The next time her story starts wobbling, don't fill the silence with questions. Let it fall. Don't rescue her from the weight of her own contradictions. That silence is your ally. It exposes what words are trying to hide. And understand this, you don't need to scream cheater to regain your dignity. All you need is clarity and the courage to act on it. Because when her story collapses, the truth is no longer the issue. The only issue left is your decision. Will you keep lying to yourself, or will you stand up for the man you know you are? And that's the final cut. Because after seeing all 8 signs, the real question isn't whether she betrayed you. The real question is whether you'll betray yourself by staying blind. You've just heard the 8 signs. And let's be clear, this isn't about turning you into a paranoid detective, snooping around for every tiny detail. It's about opening your eyes so you stop betraying yourself. Because the harshest betrayal isn't what she does in secret. It's what you allow yourself to ignore in plain sight. The goal here was never to catch her red-handed. The goal is to reclaim your dignity, your boundaries, and your power as a man who refuses to settle for less than he deserves. That's why these signs matter. They aren't just clues of infidelity, they're warnings. Warnings that something is off, something needs to be addressed, and that ignoring it will only cost you more of your self-respect. Now, here's the truth most men miss. Not every sign means betrayal is guaranteed. Sometimes distance comes from stress, exhaustion, or years of poor communication, and that's why your job isn't to accuse. It's to test, to observe, and to confront the reality directly. If there's room to repair, you repair. You have the conversation. You reset the boundaries. You fight for connection. But if the evidence stacks up, if every sign confirms what your gut already knows, then the most masculine thing you can do is walk away with your dignity intact. Because love is never worth trading your self-respect. So here's my challenge to you. Pick one situation in your life where you've ignored your own instincts. It could be her sudden coldness, her constant irritation, or her stories that never quite add up. Don't push it aside this time. Face it. Decide whether it's a problem you can solve with her, or whether it's the end of the line. Either way, the decision belongs to you, not to her lies, not to your fears. Before you go, hit subscribe, tap like, and share this video with a man who still refuses to see what's right in front of him. And in the comments, I want you to share your story. Have you ever noticed one of these signs? How did you handle it? Because your story might be the one that wakes up another man before it's too late. This isn't the end of your journey. It's the beginning of taking back what was always yours. Your self-respect, your clarity, and your freedom to choose love without ever losing yourself.